So, the creative lighting philosophy. I was working in London in 2010, and there's a company called Cityscape Digital. And I had the opportunity to be a CGI director and have my own team. That was a huge opportunity for me, one of the best moments in my life. I worked for them for 8 years. It was one of the biggest studios in Europe back then. It's still big, like 45, 55 people, I think. So basically, when I was working and having a team in 2014, I had an idea to develop a philosophy for my team and help them to get to the next level. I spent 1 year looking on cinema, going to museums on a daily basis, taking pictures, creating mood boards, and trying to push the boundaries of video and Corona back in the days to use the light very creatively and help my team to grow. And these some of the images we created after the training I offered to my team. Our clients, they find this very interesting. They start liking the philosophy a lot because we start using different way of working and thinking, and the philosophy starts growing a lot. So basically, our clients start asking us to train their teams as well. I'm talking about Foster Partners, I'm talking about Parkinson Wills, Zaha Hadid Architects. All the big architects and designers in London became our clients, and we trained the in-house team of visualization. And this is a small list of our clients that you can see here. We also have clients like Kilograph in Los Angeles, Pure Bling in Canada. I had the pleasure to meet them last month in Toronto. Actually, it was this month. I'm traveling a lot. So it was this month I went to Toronto for a workshop, and I had the pleasure to meet Pure Bling in person. So basically, we offer corporate training and consulting to architects, designers, and visualization teams. And everything started in London, as I said, because I developed the philosophy for my team. But things changed a lot, and now I'm happy that I'm sharing my knowledge all around the world. And I can't wait to do the same with you guys. So basically, part of my philosophy and my creative process is to take pictures when I'm out. This is from the beautiful island of Santorini, as you can see here. So basically, these moments is what inspires me. When I see something that inspires me, I like to analyze it, take pictures, and these moments someday become a mood board for a project. So what I'm trying to say is that when you see something inspiring, analyze it with your eyes, grow your memory palette, and take a picture, because you never know. This can be a reference on a future project. So I'm doing it daily. My first day here yesterday, I have at least 200 images on my phone because New York is an inspiring place, and I capture moments with my eyes and my camera, and I highly recommend it to happen to you. These days, my iPhone is my camera, which is very easy. Something that helped me a lot over the years to build my knowledge, it was to have masters. Masters like Bresson, that helped me to understand more about composition. I don't know if you guys know Bresson, he's a very famous photographer, but there is so many things you can learn, I can show you what I mean, by looking at his work. So basically, when I see his work, I always know where to look, and that's inspiring to me. I'm trying to figure out how he does it, how he's capturing those beautiful moments with his camera, how can I do the same on an image, on a CGI? Beautiful balance between light and dark. You always know where to look. And if you pay more attention to his work, he's using some techniques like triangle to create depth on an image. That's very inspiring to me. When I'm working, I'm always thinking about triangles. How can I create them to create depth? It's a beautiful technique that photographers are using. And another great master that uses triangles is Kudelka, Joseph Kudelka. Look at this beautiful way of composing and creating a story. This is a triangle, but if you pay more attention, there is more than one triangle. You can see here, there is a second. So basically, this is a great way to fill the frame, create balance in the image, and get depth. First, you have to learn how to see them, and when you can start seeing them, it means you're ready to create them. So when you're composing, think about depth, think about triangles, and everything else that those masters has to offer. So follow those masters. I know you have great museums here, great exhibitions. When I was living here, every week I was trying to get inspired by those masters and going to museums like MoMA and many more and learn more about photography, but also painting. For example, here, Rembrandt, one of the most famous painters in the world. I have the pleasure to analyze his work on beautiful museums in Amsterdam. And this is the Night Watch, supposed to be one of the most famous paintings in the world. So when you go into museums and study the masters, I want you to pay attention. It's not about seeing everything, it's about absorbing art and learning from the art. So you have to spend more time than usually to analyze the work. So for example, here, I stay more than half an hour because I was asking myself, Nikos, why do you like it so much? What Rembrandt does that it's inspiring to you? And the answer I gave to myself is that Rembrandt, always using a narrative, telling a story in his paintings, and using focal hierarchy, which is very truly inspiring to me. What I mean about focal hierarchy, you know where to look. You know where is the first focus point. This is the first focus point of this painting. This beautiful moment here in the foreground with two soldiers. If you pay attention, there is light here, which means it's a night, it's a daylight scene. I can see the shadow on the hand. It's called night watch, but it's basically a daylight scene. And this is the first focus point. And with the lighting, as you can see, the hierarchy is different on the lady. This is the second focus point. So she wants us to look here second. And then there is a third focus point. And there is a fourth focus point. And there is a dog barking. Basically, he's creating movement into the painting. When you're creating an image, it's all about telling a story about the design. You use light creatively to tell the story. At the same time, you need to create focal hierarchy and direct the viewer where you want to create movement into your image. And I have many examples to show you, but all these techniques, guys, we learned by studying the masters, like Rembrandt, or Caravaggio, or Vermeer, or Da Vinci. It's up to you. Picasso. There's so many masters. So go back and analyze their work, and this will help you to build your knowledge about image making and how to create beautiful stories using chaos software and so on. Because I realized by building my knowledge, the tools are there for me, and I can use them creatively to tell a story. But first, you have to build your knowledge around composition and lighting and color theory, and that's this workshop is today. Again, you see, you always know where to look. First focus point, second focus point, and so on. It's just so clear what he does. And the last thing is film. I spent 1 year in 2014 watching one film every day for a year. That was a very interesting year for me. A lot of things that I learned these days. So basically, this is Roger Deakins, my favorite cinematographer. Again, go to IMDb and just go watch his films. There is so much knowledge. Again, you know where to look. You know where is the leading character. And he's using some great techniques to direct the viewer where he wants. And that's, again, it's inspiring to me. But the goal is to translate inspiration into knowledge. So when you're watching a film, make sure to analyze it in a way that you're going to get something from it. So this is just me absorbing art and learning from art. Now let's go into the first topic of today and find out how to direct the viewer on an image. There's many ways. I will tell you my favorite techniques that I use daily. So the first thing, the brightest part of the image. This is the most important thing. When you see an image, your eyes will always go into the brightest part. And this is something you have to remember when you're composing and working on an image. So for example here, where is the first focus point? The light. It's the brightest light. So my eyes go straight there. If this is what you wanted, you succeed. If not, change the light. Because believe me, the brightest part of the image is where your eyes will always go. Use it in your advantage. The second thing, the areas of contrast. It's two categories here. You have the tonal contrast and the color contrast. This is the photography of Van Gogh, another great master that I follow a lot. And when I say follow, I've got all his books. And when I went to San Francisco, I went to see his exhibition. So when I'm traveling around the world, I'm always looking for masters to follow. So Van Gogh is using the tonal contrast to direct the viewer where he wants. Is it clear? You have dark element in a bright background, my eyes goes into the dark element, and vice versa. So basically, by having such a strong contrast in an image, your eyes will go exactly in that point. If I go back to Bresson, you see, this is called tonal contrast. He's directing the viewer with tonal contrast. You have to do the same thing when you're making an image. All you need to do is find these principles, understand them, and then use them to tell the story. So tonal contrast is something I'm using a lot. Of course, I'm going to show you examples of all these techniques. And then you have the color contrast, which is very interesting to me. So basically, you have this beautiful theater in Greece that I went to see this production. You have this beautiful blue scheme, and suddenly there's yellow. And my eyes go straight into yellow. And we're calling this the color contrast. It's such a beautiful way to direct the viewer. And then you have the highly saturated colors. Basically, you have a space with cyan and a strong red. My eyes go straight into red. It's just so easy. You just need to understand these principles and use them creatively into your images. So, a big development in London, the client asking us to create an image about this design, about the entrance of this design. And I'm saying the entrance because you have to always understand the brief of the client. What are you trying to communicate? Ask them the right questions. And the client was very clear that they wanted us to create an image about the entrance of this beautiful new development. As you can see, we use the power of the brightest part of the image to direct the viewer in the entrance, which is the first focus point. This is the first focus point. We're actually using leading lines with the lighting design that they gave us to direct the viewer again in the entrance. So small techniques that we use in the composition to get your eyes into the middle of the image. And then to create movement like Rembrandt, we're going to use different techniques like the color contrast. You see here the color, this moment. It's the first focus point is here, and the second focus point on the left. And then again, like Rembrandt, we're going to use the third focus point, and the fourth, and the fifth, and so on. So basically, it's all about creating movement into the image. And always ask yourself, where is my first focus point? What is the second focus point? What is the third focus point? If you can answer these questions, your image is going to work. If you cannot figure it out, you have to rethink the process. Start over. Ask yourself, why I cannot find the first focus point? How can I create it? In this case, we use the brightest part of the image, which is balanced with the color contrast, as you can see here. And this is all the things that we start developing on a very early stage on the image. We're creating mood boards, we have ideas, we present them to the client, and we're using the principles I just showed you before, which is these principles, to create the images and direct the viewer where we want. So this is the brightest part of the image. And I want you to start thinking like this next time you create an image and think about movement and think about direction and so on. So this is the brightest part. Can you feel it, the tonal contrast? The client, he says to us that the name of the building, it's very important. And we said, okay, that's fine. We're going to use our storytelling skills and the principles we just talked about to create an image where your eyes will start reading the image from the left, here. And how we did it? We used the tonal contrast. All you have to do is find a way to create a strong contrast and your eyes will go there. So this is the first focus point. And then the second focus point, the entrance. Again, it was clear from the questions we asked the client that he wanted us to look inside the building afterwards. There is a lady wearing a red skirt. By mistake? No. Because red is a very powerful color, and if you use it correctly, first you see the tonal contrast, and second you see the red. And the lights, they're bright inside for a reason, because this is the second focus point. And there is a third focus point. Can you see the triangle? 1, 2, 3. So basically, it's all about combining everything we're going to talk about today. It's combining the knowledge and the principles and the techniques. And as you can see, these people, they have less contrast saturation because this is called aerial perspective. If you want to get depth on an image, you have to make sure you have more contrast saturation in the foreground and less in the background. Okay? This is some principles you have to follow. And this is photography called aerial perspective. So these people, they have less contrast, less saturation, but they're helping the viewer to look here as well. One, first focus point, second focus point, third focus point. Even the light is helping you to look here. Everything is designed in a way that you're going to appreciate the design, you're going to read the name of the building, and you're going to look around and you're going to appreciate even more. Even the light shining on this beautiful facade is helping to appreciate the design, but you have to create movement if you want to tell a story about the design. This is the philosophy. Let's keep doing this. The color contrast. Another client, but again, beautiful development. We had to create an image to represent this and communicate the design, and we use this beautiful blue hour. If you go back to Santorini moments now, you will see that this palette exists in my mood board back then. So basically, we used this cold blue and orange, which is complementary in color theory. And this blue and orange, it helps to create an emotional moment. The orange is a very creative color. It's like a great use in an entrance. And as you can see, it's very strong to balance the blue and create the contrast. In the middle of the entrance, there is a lady crossing, wearing black, because you have orange, you don't want the colors to fight, so wearing black, and there is a taxi sign with lights on her. This is storytelling, we're trying to find a way for you to look in the entrance. And we're doing it by using all these tools and the principles that I'm talking about. So this is the first focus point. And then, again, if you pay attention, to create movement again, we're using the tonal contrast, and there is more interesting stories happening around the scene. Even the birds here, this is tonal contrast. Even the white on the lady here, this is tonal contrast. So all these small elements is helping you to look around and appreciate the design. So when you position people, what they're wearing is very important, and where they exist on the image is also very important. You have to think about this process when you're creating the images. And sometimes, by having mood boards, it's easier to get ideas. I don't think in my life when I was young, I was doing images without mood boards, and I was failing. These days, I'm always using a mood board. I cannot make an image without a clear reference, because the image starts in your mind, and you need to look for references to develop the idea further. And that's why you need the mood boards, and I have examples later on from commercial work of how we're creating the mood boards and why. So this is the color contrast. And this from a different client, it's called highly saturated colors. So basically the client was NatWest in London, and the color scheme they're using was a strong blue and red in the business card. So we get inspired by this because they asked us to find a way for the viewer to look inside the building. And we're like, okay, that's fine. We're just going to boost the blue in the reception, use blue as a carpet, use red on a briefcase, red on the stair. So basically, we took the branding of the company, we used it on an image, and by increasing saturation, it helped the viewer to look exactly where the client wants us to look. So make sure you speak to your clients, understand the needs, the communication needs they have, and then use your creative skills and these principles to tell the story. This is how we work, this is how we think, and this is for high-end clients, but behind the scenes, it's all about having a philosophy and principles to follow and work. Composition guides, they're very important. This is 3 amazing films that I want you to watch, and if I ask you and you said, Nikos, we've seen them, great, you have to watch them again. Because the second time you see a film, this is where the knowledge starts to happen. This is your opportunity to translate your inspiration into knowledge. So see the films again, but this time from a different perspective. Study the lighting, the composition, the colors, why they're doing things this way. Finding the why is where the knowledge will come. So this is Drive, this is the Grand Budapest Hotel, and this is Blade Runner. Roger Deakins, again, the cinematographer, he actually won an Oscar from Blade Runner 2049. So let's talk about the guides and how can you create powerful compositions by having these guides from day one inside your software. And I'm going to show you how to use the guides in Corona, in V-Ray, in Photoshop, everywhere. So the most basic guide, rule of thirds. You will find this guide everywhere, in your phone, in your cameras. It exists for many years. It's a very basic and important technique. What does it mean, rule of thirds? Basically, the image is divided by equally by 9 parts. You have 2 horizontal lines and 2 vertical lines. And where the lines meet, or along the lines, you position your subject. In this case, here is the first focus point, the leading character. Behind the scene is the brightest light. By mistake? No. You have to combine the techniques. The brightest light is where your eyes will look first. So basically, he's combining the philosophy of the brightest part of the light with the rule of thirds. This is the first focus point, and this is the second focus point. Along the line and in the intersection points. It's simple as that, okay? And the brightest light because you want us to look here first, the leading character. So when I was living here in New York, I did this image for WeWork, and as you can see, I'm using the rule of thirds to create my story. The sofa is aligned along the line, and my story is where the intersection point happens here, when the 2 lines meet. This is my story. So basically, I have these 2 people enjoying the beautiful design of WeWork, having a coffee, reading a book, because that's the philosophy of WeWork, that the lounge area is like feeling like home. So basically, I use the guides from day one without even having people in my scene, but I use the guides to create the composition, and you have to dream about it. So when you're composing, you have to dream what's going to happen here. It can be a person, it can be 2, but the thing is, these ideas need to happen when you're composing, and that's why you need the guides. I master composition by having your following masters and using the guides. I don't need them these days because I train my eyes to see the guides, but this takes time. Until that, use the guides and trust me, you will build your knowledge. And I will show you soon how to use them inside the software. So this is the rule of thirds. Golden ratio. Basically, it's the same philosophy. There's only one difference, that the center lines, they're closer to each other. But the philosophy is the same. You position your subject along the lines or in the intersection points. This is the guide. He wants us to look here. Again, tonal contrast. He wants us to look in the leading character. Beautiful lighting, nice color, strong light, hard shadows. Beautiful moment. So he wants us to look here. It's super clear. Let's see how I'm using golden ratio. You see? Exactly as before. So basically, the guides show me where to position my people composition. The guides tell me that, Nikos, you have to create something here. This is the moment. This is the first focus point, the brightest part of the image combined with the guide, exactly as the cinematographer of Drive. You know, this is where I'm getting my inspiration, and then I bring this knowledge back into the CGI world. This is the first focus point. And then here, to create balance, the second focus point. Perfect. Along the line is the design, horizontals and verticals. So use those guides, because that's why we call them guides. They're going to guide your composition, and you're going to make powerful compositions. This is the golden ratio. Center composition, the Budapest Hotel. Wes Anderson is a great master to follow for many different reasons, and he's using color creatively a lot. So this is the center composition. Can you feel the beautiful symmetry? That's a beautiful way to compose and have a symmetry. In general, symmetry is very pleasant to the eye. When you see a design that you can use center composition and symmetry, go for it. And here's an example. Check this out. This beautiful design in London, we use center composition, we use the power of red to direct the viewer into the center of the image. Can you feel the symmetry with the trees? The symmetry with the lights? So read the design. And when you see symmetry with center composition, you have a winning image. Again, very theatrical. You have red, tonal contrast and color contrast. Perfect moment. You have the lights shining on the woman. Another tonal contrast here. There's another focus point, but the first focus point is on the center. And then you have this New York style with the smoke happening underground to make it even more theatrical and cinematic. How do we get the cinematic look? By looking at cinematic references. That's why before I developed the philosophy, I spent 1 year in cinema, because this knowledge helped me to bring it back into the CG world. And you know, the chaos software is always there. It's just about your knowledge getting to the next level and then combine it with these beautiful techniques that you can have inside V-Ray, Corona, Advantage, and Scape these days. You can also do volumetrics easily these days, which is not as hard as before. So basically, you have all the tools. It's all about your knowledge getting to the next level. So start watching films. It helped me. It's going to help you, even help my team as well back in the days. And everybody now have a different way of thinking, because when I understand the cinematic lighting, which I'm going to talk about more in a way. Again, Blade Runner, different guide. It's called Golden Triangle. I love this. This is more dynamic than before, a bit different. But the idea, again, it's the same. You know, you have beautiful lines here. Basically, you have one center line dividing the image in two triangles. And then you have some other lines in 90 degrees connecting to the main line. And in the intersection point is where the subject is, where the moment is. It's very dynamic, super wide, beautiful composition. So when I was designing this space one day, I decided to use the golden triangle because I found the opportunity in this beautiful, very colorful, cold and warm, emotional space, very organic. I decided to balance the design, which is the stair, intersection point number 1, with the tango dancers. So basically, you start reading the image from here, balanced with the stair, and you have a beautiful, dynamic composition. Again, by using the guides, allow me to tell my story in a better way. So always use the guides. And depending on the design, you can decide to go with rule of thirds, triangle, golden ratio, center composition, or one of my favorites, the golden spiral. So basically, this is like a journey in an image. The golden spiral starts from one corner here, and then travels your eyes entirely into the image. Just a beautiful journey. And along the line, there is things that are happening, and where it stops is the moment. Such a beautiful composition, very interesting to compose. So the golden spiral, it creates a beautiful journey. It starts from one corner and gets you into the image, and where it stops is the moment. This is, again, Roger Deakins' Blade Runner, a beautiful shot, great composition. So in 2014, Jeep Cherokee came to us in London and asked us to create a story about a new Jeep. And we used the guide, which is Golden Spiral, to create an image and tell a story about the new Jeep Cherokee. The idea was that this guy, the surfer, the business guy, he loves surfing, and he's using the new Jeep Cherokee to go anywhere he wants, in this case, in the beach, to do his passion, which is surf. So the Golden Spiral was a winning choice to create the story. The spiral starts where the Jeep is, in the left, gets your eyes into the image. Along the spiral, there is things that are happening, like the mountain, and where it stops, you have the moment, where it's the surfer looking on the beach, and you get the story that the new Jeep Cherokee can take you anywhere. That was a brief that we get. It was very popular image back in the days. We used V-Ray in this image. It was very successful for the client. Of course, it's one of many that we create, but you get the idea of how we're using the guides, even in something different, not just architecture. And this is the architecture. This is like how we use the spiral again to create this beautiful story. It's business, after work business in London. You can have the view of the Shard and this lady enjoying the golden hour. The spiral stands for here, takes your eyes into the image, and where it stops, you have the tonal contrast and this beautiful moment of two people discussing and having a great time, talking business, but also enjoying the quality of light and the warmth of the sun. So this is again the golden spiral. There's many ways you can get the spirals. You have rule of thirds in Escape, you have rule of thirds in Vantage. I'm going to show you in V-Ray and Corona how to use the guides, and also I'm going to show you how to use it in Photoshop. So basically in Photoshop, there is a way, okay, the screen disappeared, I think. Do we have somebody from the technical team can help us to see what happened? I can try to take it out and then plug it back. Okay, we're back. So basically, okay, good. Bellissimo, bellissimo. So basically in Photoshop, there is a way that you can have all the guides available. So if you go to the crop tool and you click on the crop tool and you press enter, you have the guides in Photoshop. And you can have all the guides. This is the spiral. You can even rotate the spiral. So basically here, you have the rule of thirds, you have the triangle, you have the golden ratio, you have everything we discussed. It's a great way, regardless of your software, to have the guides, and you can take creative decisions when you're composing. In this case, it's the golden ratio, the golden spiral. If you press O on the keyboard, this is the rule of thirds. You see, this chair is there by mistake? No. The guides, by using multiple guides into the image, the better the composition. So we have this, the rule of thirds, everything works fine, and you can see that we used to compose the chair. If I press O again, you see, this also works, the golden triangle, along the line, into the section points. And if you press O again, you see the horizon is perfectly aligned with the golden ratio. So basically, we used all the guides to compose this image, and that's why I can tell you that this is a powerful composition. The more guides you have on the image, the better the image. So use the guides. Learn from the guides. Let the guides guide you when you're composing to tell your story. If you're using V-Ray now, here, so if you're using V-Ray, in the V-Ray camera, in V-Ray 6, they have all the guides inside the camera. So I'm going to select the camera. If I go down, here, if I go, there it is. So you have the rule of thirds inside the V-Ray camera. You have the golden grid, golden ratio. You have the golden spiral. if you flip, and you have the golden triangle. So basically, as I said before, the tools are there. Everything is there. All you have to do is use the guides in a creative way to create your compositions, because everything you need already exists inside the V-Ray camera. Another nice tip. Let's say you're using V-Ray in SketchUp or Rhino, okay? In the frame buffer, there is a way to have the guides. For example, here you can add the proportional guides at the end here. This, what happens, is going to bring you the guides as a layer, and you can turn it on and off. And you can use the guides when you're entering. You can change from rule of thirds to golden ratio, shader composition, and custom grid. This is what they have at the moment, but it's enough to get you started. So just start using these guides, even if you're using V-Ray for SketchUp or Rhino and so on, because this belongs in the frame buffer, and all the V-Ray collection, regardless of software, modeling software, they have these guides. So definitely use the guides when you compose. Now, if you're using Corona, there is a free script you can download. It's called Image Composition. It's a free script. You can just download it, and when you run it, basically you have all the guides in Corona. So basically, you have the rule of thirds. You can see here, that's what we used in this composition. You have the golden ratio, the triangle, golden spiral, right click, it goes up and down, and set the composition. So basically, the tools are available, regardless if it's V-Ray, if it's Enscape or Corona, it's there. All you have to do is download the script. It's called Image Composition. If you cannot find it, drop me an email. I will send it to you, but it's very easy to find, and use the guides. So I think I already said enough. I should do like a small Q&A. Are you guys using the guides? It's something you're doing it already? Are you composing by using the guides in every single shot? Feel free to tell me your thoughts, or if you have any questions up to now, you can, anything. Don't forget, that's why we're here. These Q&As will help you a lot to keep learning and keep developing your knowledge. So if there's any questions until now, I'm happy to respond. Otherwise, I will continue, but, you know. Chris, it's your birthday, so you should have the first question.
Yeah, we're using them. We started using them. I think we saw you bring them up in the most recent, or not the most recent, but a few
Okay.
sessions ago.
Nice.
The online versions of this that we've been watching.
Amazing.
They've been very helpful, I think.
They are great. That's exactly the point. Yeah, to start using them. And which software are you using?
So we use 3D Studio Max.
Perfect.
But that's sort of our, oh, I'm sorry. No
Yeah.
worries. That's kind of our center software. Some of us are also using Blender and SketchUp and that sort of thing, but we all come to 3D Studio Max to kind of
Perfect.
make sure we can pass projects back and forth.
Okay, I'm glad. You
works
see,
very well,
that's great to hear. So, again, he's talking about the online master classes that I talked about. We also sharing this knowledge online, and yeah, great. So, anybody else with something want to add on this before we continue? Yeah, please.
Can you repeat the name of the photographers? If you can catch up the names of the photographers.
The Bresson, Van Ho, and Joseph Kudelka.
Oh.
Yeah, so
Yeah, just asking for the name of the photographers.
Bresson, Joseph Kudelka, and Van Ho. Great masters to follow and learn and build your knowledge in composition. Imagine sometimes when I have a big project and I'm under pressure, a very common mistake is to run and work because you think that, yeah, it's under deadline, I have to make 20 images. So I learned this the hard way, okay? So I stopped doing that. What I'm doing, I'm opening a book of Van Ho, I have it on the studio, I'm spending 15 minutes looking at his work, I'm feeling inspired, I'm feeling excited, and then I'm like, now I can start working because now I can see clearly, I have a vision, I have an idea, inspiration is everything for me. So get some books, use these masters, have them in the studio. When you're having a coffee, by watching these images for 10 minutes, you're becoming the master and you're ready to create work. So you keep these ideas because I've done many mistakes in my life and I'm here to share the mistakes and also give you tips how to avoid them. Don't just run the computer. The toughest the deadline, the more moment you have to be away and create your mood boards and find your references, clear your idea, because every image has a message, and you need to be clear in your mind, what are you trying to say? Okay, and I'm talking about clients like Canary Wharf Group, who have 65 images to deliver. And I was running the team, I was under pressure, I was always stressed, but I told them, do not open Max, do not start working without we agreed on the direction, without have a clear idea of what are you trying to make. Max is a tool, V-Ray is a tool, Corona is a tool. If you don't have an idea, they will never give you everything. When you have a vision, they're great, they're amazing. You can make art, okay? So thank you for these questions. This is what I like the Q&A because it helps us all to learn and elevate one another.
If there are any other questions, just raise your hand and I'll run over to you with the mic.
Do you limit the number of
Yeah, so basically, a good mood board is between 5 to 7 images. So it's a great number because you don't give too much and you don't have little images. I have references, of course. I have mood boards to show you. The mood board, the idea is to help your client to understand your vision. So 5 to 7 is what we usually do on a mood board, but that doesn't mean that we're looking for 5 to 7 images. We're looking for many, and then we browse, and find the ones that communicate the vision. Another tip is to label the images. By label the images and give this to the client, he can easily understand your vision. So label the references and don't use too many, but I do have examples later on, which is clear how we did it. Yeah, so I will show you later on. Okay? I love that. Let's keep doing this Q&A. And of course, at any time there's a question, David is here. You know, I'm doing small breaks, but anytime, just raise your hand. That's why we're here. So, let's see what's next. Now, we talk about composition, we talk about some principles about how to direct the eye. Let's talk about, aspect ratio, and then talk about lighting. This film, the aspect ratio changed 3 times. 137, 185, 235. It's so important to change your aspect ratio when you're creating images. If the client gives you a limit to keep the same aspect ratio, give him different guides in every image, you will give him a different experience. So that's the solution. If there is no limit on the aspect ratio, you have to experience the space and change the lens, aspect ratio, depth of field, and focus point for every shot. Because every shot is different and every story is different. So basically here, as you can see, he's using a very wide lens based on the distortion in the 235 format. He's using like a moment with like a 35 lens, less distortion in a 185 format. And here he's using 137. So basically 3 different aspect ratios for one movie. You have to do the same thing for one project, you know, different aspect ratio. I'm saying this because I'm seeing people, they copy the camera, but they forget, but when you copy the camera, you also copy aspect ratio, depth of field, and so on. So reset, create one composition, reset the camera, create a new one. Don't just copy the same settings to the second composition because every space is different. And this is an example of one space with completely different aspect ratio, lens, depth of field, and focus point. This is the 4 elements that you have to always reset when you're composing. This is like a very wide lens. You can see everything. You can see the space in a very wide format, 235, with 24 millimeter lens. But this is a moment with aspect ratio 1 and 50 millimeter lens. And this is 1.5 aspect ratio. And this is 0.75. This is like a knife for photography. And the focus point changes. You see the depth of field here because the focus point is back in the chair. So you have to always reset the aspect ratio. It's a very important thing to remember when you're composing. Use the guides, reset, and based on the story and based on the moment, you have to decide which aspect ratio, which guide, which lens, and so on. Usually, I'm playing between 24 millimeter lens for wide shots. I can go up to 85 for a moment, like 24, 50, 35, 28. Alex, welcome. Good to see you again. Good to see you, good to see you. A good friend for the past. Welcome. So, again, this is something you have to remember, okay? Don't forget, play with the aspect ratio. And cinematic lighting. I promise you some cinematic lighting. Here we are. So there is one technique that's called 3-point lighting. It's very basic, but very inspiring. And by mastering this technique, you can do everything. You can play with light in a very unique way. So this is the three-point lighting technique. You can see there's a key light here, the strongest light in the scene. And to balance that, to avoid the contrast, there is a fill light here. And you can decide how much fill light you want, because the fill light is the one that's going to fill the shadows coming from the key light. So the fill light is going to remove the contrast. It depends on how much you want to remove. You can increase the intensity, but don't forget the hierarchy, the brightest part of the image. The key light is always the strongest light. Somebody asked me one day, Nikos, can I have two key lights? You can, but the second key light is going to be softer than the first key light. Always hierarchy, always. And then they have the backlight to separate the subject from the background. It's just a beautiful technique, it's very simple. Again, key light, fill light, key light, fill light, backlight. It can be simple as that, but let's go deeper. Amélie, what a great film. It's been old, but I still love it. Again, key light, the strongest light in the scene. The light on the right, on the left is the key light. Here, this is the demonstration, the sketch. So this is the strongest light in the scene. You see, you can use the fill light in opposite direction to remove the contrast. Just make sure that the key light is stronger than the fill light. This is the tip, hierarchy. And then you have the backlight to separate the subject from the background. And if you create these lights, basically you have three-point lighting. I have a scene that I used to learn these techniques, just a chair and the floor, that's all, and the wall. So basically, this is the key light, the strongest light in the scene. This is the fill light, and you can decide how much light to remove by increasing intensity. And this is the backlight to separate the subject from the background. It doesn't matter if you use Corona or V-Ray, it's the same thing. Both software will deliver the same results. So this is the key light, the strongest light. If you have only one light, you have contrast. Very dramatic look, because there's only one key light. So what's the solution here? Opposite direction, you need the fill light. Fill light, removing the contrast. You can increase the intensity as much as you want, as long as the fill light is softer and less bright than the key light. How cool is that? You see, I'm just light painting. I love light mix. We're going to talk about light mix soon. So basically, I just remove the contrast by using the fill light. So every time you see contrast these days on an image, you want to remove it, use an invisible light as a fill light to remove the contrast. And then you want to separate your subject from the background, just add a backlight. Boom. Simple as that. You know, just getting inspired by cinema, practicing, bring this to the test, and this test could become a workflow on a beautiful CGI workflow image later on for a client in London, for example. If I turn them all off, again, this is the backlight, separating the subject from the background. This is the fill light, remove the contrast from the key light, which is going to open now, and that's three-point lighting. It can be simple as that. And just to prove my point, I said to you that you can use it in any software. Let me just prove it to you. If I just open the image in V-Ray, there's no difference. It's just the same thing. It's up to you to decide which software is going to work best for you. So three-point lighting, it should be here. Yeah. There's no difference. Same thing, different software. So the light mix in V-Ray, the same way. You have your key light. You bring your fill light. You can play with intensity as much as you want, but don't make it brighter than a key light. Okay? And this is the backlight. Same thing. Now, inside Max, if I go here, you can see here, this is the chair, this is the lights. So when I'm studying photography and analyzing photography, I realized the lights, they're never straight. They have a bit of an angle. So that's something you have to create yourself as well. Basically, 30 degrees, 45 degrees, you start to have like a bit of an angle, and this helps the lighting. Don't forget, you can activate the target, which means you know exactly what the light does and where. So you can activate the target, click on the target. Sorry, with this mouse, it's here. There. So basically, you can just move the target, and the light follows exactly where you want. So in this case, I want to highlight the chair in the foreground, in this exact moment. So this is the key light. If I press interactive rendering, I can give you one tip. If you want to make light powerful and make it strong, like the key light, you have to play with directionality. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to right-click the light, select the light. There is something called directionality in Vira and Corona. If you go higher than 0.5, you're going to get noise. So me personally, I never go higher than 0.5, but if you go ask me, I'm using 0.48. 0.48 is my favorite number for directionality. If I make it 0, the magic goes away. The light is not as powerful as before. It doesn't help me to make it as a key light. So use directionality to make it like a spotlight and make it strong. And this is your key light. So that's one tip. Use directionality. In the fill light, I'm not using directionality. Why? Because I don't want to be strong. It needs to be soft. So if I use directionality, they're going to fight. You don't want that. You don't want the lights to fight, because now if I raise intensity, the image doesn't have hierarchy, because you have two key lights. So if you want to make it softer, I can accept it. But if you want to play with intensity, remove directionality, because that way this light is soft. And you can see that when I'm increasing intensity, it doesn't have the power of the key light. And this is great. That's why we're calling it fill light, removing the shadows coming from the key light. Now the backlight, it's up to you if you want to have directionality or not, because even without or within, you still see it. It's just less strong, and with directionality, more powerful. It's up to you. Now, there is one trick here. There is an option to include, exclude objects on the light, which is great. That's power. We love that. Photographers are always getting jealous when a CGI artist is talking about this, because I can just say, include this object, exclude this object. Let me show you by default what happens here in the backlight. So when I created the light, now the brightest part of the image is behind, is actually below the chair. This is wrong, because my eyes goes here. I don't want this. My eyes will go here. So basically in Vira and Corona, you can just say, you know what? Include the chair or exclude the floor. Before, I was using include the chair. Now I'm going to use exclude the floor. You just click on the button, click on the floor, boom, fixed. So be creative with your lighting. Start using realistic lighting. And when something doesn't work, remember these techniques to include or exclude from the light. Just that way, you're not going to have any crazy highlights, and you can tell your story exactly as you wanted to tell it. Simple stuff. Just use include, exclude, and directionality. This is my tips when it comes to three-point lighting and lighting in general. So, Gobo, I don't know if you saw him before. I was raising my hand when the white came on the screen from, from the different, before the presentation. It's because I love Gobo. And New York is amazing for Gobo. I was watching, yes, I have 200 images on my phone just for yesterday, because I love Gobo. There is still many different ways you can use Gobo. You can use natural Gobo, is where the light is shaped by nature. Beautiful moments. You can use design Gobo, where the light is shaped by the design. So when I see design with patterns, I'm going to find a way to light so I can get patterns in space. And this is design Gobo. And then you have the artificial Gobo. In theater, they use it all the time. Basically, they position an object in front of the light to shape the light. It's a very common workflow in theater. Well, in 3D, we're a bit lucky, because in Max, there is some lights. It's called standard Max lights, and they support projection mapping, which means any black and white image you add on the map, you're shaping the light with that map. And that's amazing, because it supports Viri, it supports Corona. All you have to do is add this map. Any black and white image, you can create patterns in space. And this is just an example of the same scene. As you can see, I can shape the light by using a black and white map on this light and also on this spotlight. All you need is a black and white map on a standard Max light. And you can shape the light. And I will show you how my client's using these workflows, and then you will understand exactly why I'm showing you these workflows. So basically, this is the spotlight without Gobo. This is just Corona light. Let me turn this off. This is just Corona light. This is just a spotlight shining on the chair. But if you create a gobo effect, you can actually save the light and create patterns in space. And this is unique. This is beautiful stuff you can create on images. And this is the wall gobo in the back. So let me show you how to use them and then what you can do with them. So basically here on the same file, I'm just going to unhide the layer called gobo. Yeah. And here I'm just going to use interactive rendering. I'm going to load my preset of different lighting setup. Don't forget the light mix. You can save as many presets as you like. So don't forget to name and save your presets. I'm just going to load one called artificial gobo, I think. Yeah, artificial gobo. There you go. So let's show you the lights. Top view, this is a standard max light. So any standard max light can become corona shadows for corona or vire shadows for vire. That's all you have to do. Use a standard max light. You can find them here. Standard max light, standard. And any light has this option to use gobo. Again, this is a standard max light. I'm going to say corona shadows because I'm ready with corona or vire shadows. That's the first thing. Choose your shadows based on the software. The second tip is to use inverse square. Inverse square, it means that the light is going to be dimmer based on the distance. Basically, this means photographic quality. Based on the distance, the light will be dimmered in inverse square. And the third tip is to use, in the advanced effects, there is something called projector map. Any black and white image you add here, you can project anything on any wall. So I'm using this map. Nothing else than a black and white map. If you go to Google and just say gobo textures, any black and white map, anything. Just download them, just take this one, make it a pure black on the edges, here just make it black, and use it to project this and give me the illusion of patterns in space. Anything you like. You have windows, you can have these shapes. This is like gobo patterns as well. And you can see the effect, you can see what you can create. This is from a real photography. You can see how these lights are used. This is the same thing, you see? The light is saved by a pattern, but by using if you don't have max, this is the way. Just use a map in front of the light. But if you have max, you don't have to use this, you just need a map. So any black and white map. So this is what I'm using. Now if I press interactive rendering, I can actually use this map and move it around, or move the light, whatever you like. Check this out. I'm just rotating and moving the light, the map, and this way it moves the light. Simple as that. You can tiling, you can sketch it, you can do whatever you like. Or you can simply change the map. I have some maps here that I'm using. You see, this is another one. View image. You see, it's a bit blurred. So in Photoshop, you can decide if you want hard lines for hard shadows or soft, like Gaussian blur, to make it soft and diffuse, which is going to make it softer. So I like Gaussian blur, and then don't overdo it. The more you use, the softer the image. In this case, if I use this one with blur, there it is. Straight away, you have these beautiful soft shadows. If you use something with no blur, like just lines, you will see what I mean. It's going to load again. You see, hard lines. So it's up to you what image you're going to project and how you're going to use it to project. Again, you can move it, you can do whatever you like. It's such a beautiful workflow. It's super fast to render, there's no noise, and there's many things you can do with it. So this is just adding a map as a gobo. Now, let me show you what is possible. And this is another one. Again, same thing, spotlight, gobo. But let me show you what my client is doing after the workshop. This is where it gets interesting, because I just showed them how to use it. It's their responsibility to make images and create beautiful artwork. It gives me the illusion of trees. Behind, there's nothing. There's no trees. And I was speaking to K-Frame, it's like, Nikos, you just help us to innovate. You help us to create something unique, because now we don't use any trees in the scene. It's faster to render, faster to work, but there is patterns, there's beautiful moment, and you can communicate this interior design without even getting technical. All you need is a standard light, and then use the map of any map you want to project, and you can create art. So it's faster, it's better, and it's cool to know as a technique. And then another friend, Gian Mark Amy, he's using it for architecture. He's giving me the illusion of caustics. In reality, it's just a map, you know, just go here, caustics. Nothing special, guys, you know, just get a pattern, find the pattern that you like, and then project that into a space and see what happens. The magic happens. Look at this beautiful moment. And now the architecture is even more interesting than before. He's projecting the caustics, he's projecting a map here, and also projecting another map with lines here. So 3 different gobos he's using in this beautiful image to communicate the space. So the gobo techniques, they're very important. And you have to find a way to use all of them. This is the artificial gobo, okay? This is the design gobo. When I see patterns in the design, I'm gonna move the light around and then create these gobo effects into the space. Design gobo. Study the design, analyze it, and then create. You can see the patterns on the floor. I was yesterday, again, walking around London, too many years in London, New York. So walking around New York, and then I remember in the World Trade Center, oh my God, some beautiful shadow patterns happened in the space, and I stayed there for a minute, and I was playing with composition and taking pictures of people walking, and I can see the shadows and the patterns. This is unique, you know, takes things to the next level. So learn to create these interesting patterns in space, and when you're walking around New York, because you have tall buildings and you have interesting shapes, capture these moments with your eyes and your camera, and I'm calling this process grow your memory palette. You know, the more you learn to see these moments, the easier you can create them on a CGI. And you are in the right space to get inspired by Gobo, because New York is by far the most interesting space in the world, city in the world, to get inspired by Gobo. And this is the natural Gobo. Again, on a CGI, you know, natural Gobo. We're shaping the light by using trees. And this is called natural Gobo. But we're using all these techniques in the CGI. The artificial Gobo, the design, and natural Gobo. As you can see, this lady here, maybe she's having a business lunch, just a lunch break, and absorbing light and enjoying the moment, but the patterns is what make this image unique. So we use the trees to shape the light. And these interesting patterns create a moment into the image. Okay, that's the idea of communicating something. You need to tell a story. And don't forget the triangles, even here. You see one image here, second here, third here, and back. There's always a triangle you can play to create depth. We're starting on the right, move the light inside and the left, and then go back in the design. And the whole design is lit in a way to celebrate it and having contrast in the foreground, which makes the composition more interesting. So, you know, play with these techniques, guys. Just remember the Gobo effects and how you can use them creatively to tell a story into an image, okay? Natural Gobo, design Gobo, artificial Gobo. Since, as you know, I love cinema a lot, I will continue my cinematic lighting philosophy approach based on these films. This is Ida, a black and white film that I highly recommend for composition and lighting. But if you have Netflix, I start watching Replay. Oh my God, Alex, you have to watch Replay. You have to watch it again. It's an amazing, it's a masterpiece. And Kalina, have you seen Replay in Netflix? Okay, you have to watch it. Yeah, it is great. And Replay is even stronger. I mean, it's many years later, but it's the way they create the story. Even if you mute everything, you will figure out what's happening because it's so emotional. And the composition, for me, it's just a masterclass, the way they do it. So I'm about to finish it, and seriously, I'm going to see it again. I think what they create is unique. So Ida is a beautiful film to watch, again, for composition and lighting. So when you're watching a film, again, you have to watch it again to translate the inspiration into knowledge. But there is also something else. it's important to look for lighting breakdowns because sometimes you might get lucky and you might find this online. So all I did, I said IDA lighting breakdowns, okay? And I'm going to show you what to do if you cannot find them. But let's focus first when you found them. So when you find these breakdowns, you have to analyze and figure out why and how. So the first thing I asked myself, Nikos, where is the key light? There's always a key light in any image. And the answer is here. Beautiful. There is a light, a huge source outside, shining into the space. This is the key light. Great. That's done. But then I realized, oh my God, what is this? There is 2 spotlights to give me the illusion of sunlight into the space. One here, one here. And that's inspiring. Every time you're missing sun and you wish you had sun somewhere in the space, you use a spotlight to replicate sun and give me the illusion of sunlight. This is a great way, again, to add depth and direct the viewer where you want. And where do you want? In Ida, the leading character. This is Ida. So basically, he's using anything in his power to create sunlight creatively and direct the viewer in Ida. And then there's a fill light. We always said that before opposite direction of the key light, Ida will have a very dark shadow on the face. So he's using a fill light to remove the shadow coming from the key light. That was a beautiful moment for me because I just realized exactly how to use three-point lighting back then, many years ago in space. I was like, oh my God, this is inspiring. Every time I'm saying to myself, I wish I had sunlight, I'm just going to create it by adding a spotlight. That's all he does. He's adding a spotlight and creating a small patterns of light and giving me the illusion it's coming from the key light. And you can see in the final shot that all you see is key light, fill light, and sunlight. You have no idea that this is different sources of light. And that's inspiring. And that's why you have to always look for the lighting breakdown. You know, Joker lighting breakdown. Dune lighting breakdown, Dune cinematography breakdown. Find out the breakdowns because it's going to help you to master lighting by looking and analyzing the work of these masters. Even here, again, Gobo, you see? It's everywhere. It's in cinema, it's in theater. He's using 3 different sources to replicate sun here. You see the sunlight here? It's basically this one. So basically, every time he wants sunlight, he will use his own light. That's inspiring. And to isolate Ida, because otherwise, how do I know which one is Ida? But I know because of the light. The light pattern helps me to know where is Ida. And he does it so well. Again, in his case, he needs to use this black material with holes. But if it was me and I want to use this gobo, guys, all you have to do, you know, just go in Photoshop, new. That's fine for now. Okay, just super easy, and just start creating patterns that you want. So basically, you go here with Shift. You can make this white, and this is your gobo. That's it. This is your gobo, and then just duplicate that. How many you want, and I can just show you. Because I can show you also the Gaussian blur. Let's say you want to have this shape, okay? And then you want to be soft. So basically what I'm going to do, I'm just going to merge these layers. And then I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian blur. And what I can do now, I can decide how much of this pattern needs to be blurred and soft. So you can decide by doing less or more. It can be that simple. Black and white map, Gaussian blur, and use it in Max with standard lights to create the pattern and isolate whatever you want to isolate, or highlight something. In this case, he wants to highlight Ida, so we know exactly where she is. And he does it so well. Can you see the triangle? Sorry. So basically, oh, come on. Let me start sketching. My keyboard doesn't like, okay, it doesn't like it. Let me go out and go in again. Hopefully it will be fixed. There it is, you see? Problem solving. So, triangle, 1, 2. There's always something first you need to start looking the triangles, and then you have to create them. So basically here, he's using the total contrast, dark in light and light in dark, to create the triangle. But he does something else that I want to pay attention. He's using this beautiful highlight next to the candle, and he's giving me the illusion that it's coming from the candle. And that is amazing, because this highlight, he wants to control it in his own way, and there is a light shining next to the source. I'm going to show you after the break how I do this technique, because it's very inspiring. So basically what I'm saying is that when you have a light source, any light source, and you want the highlight close to the source, you can actually make it yourself. Because in 3D, I'm afraid some highlights, you have to paint them yourself to create something outstanding and beautiful and exceptional. And he does it so well by adding the source next to the main source. So basically, next to the candle, if you highlight an area with a light, your feelings is that the candle creating the highlight. It's simple as that. And I will go deeper on the break after that. I think we still have 5 minutes. So let's finish the breakdowns, and then we'll have a break. So this is The Hateful Eight, Tarantino, an amazing film director. He never studied film, but he's one of the most talented directors in the world. And do you know how he learned? He was working in a video club, and he was watching a film every day in his life. And this helped him to create his own taste. And now he's going to make 80 films and then decide to retire. But these 10 films is masterpieces. So by looking on somebody else's work, you create a taste on yourself, because it's all about perspective and how you see the world. So in this case, Tarantino created this beautiful film, The Hateful Eight, and I want to break down how you should look on images and break down the lighting when you cannot find the lighting breakdown. In this case, I Googled for it, nothing happened. I was like, that's fine. I'm going to use my own knowledge. And then I'm going to ask myself the right questions. Nikos, where is the key light? There is a key light in every image. So ask yourself, where is the key light coming from? And by looking at the image, you can figure it out. The key light is coming from the left. This is the strongest light of the scene. This is the key light, right? This is the key light coming from the left. Perfect. Cold winter light. But then you have to ask yourself, is there a fill light? Because he's not looking dramatic. So what is this highlights on the head? What is this highlight here? Basically, there must be a light shining from the top as a spotlight. Cold vs warm. And this is the fill light. I can see because I can see the highlights. And then it's like, what is this? Oh, wait for a minute. Nico said this is the backlight separating the subject from the background. Okay, now I know. And then you're like, why there's a light here? There must be a light coming from the side. Yes, another light here. Actually, maybe there's a light here coming from this direction. What I'm trying to say is that that's how you learn. It doesn't matter if you have the lighting breakdown. Ask yourself, where is the light coming from, in which direction, in which color, and why? When I see this pattern, I know why, because we talked about it. It's the only way to separate the subject from the background. So a backlight in the back, boom. He was definitely dramatic with the key light. He was like, I want to bring some warm artificial light to create an emotional response from lighting by mixing cold and warm. Great, let's have a spotlight, and then the key light, and then another fill light, and then the backlight. This is how you learn. You know, if just any image, even on a magazine, you just open an image on a magazine, you can start doing the same philosophy, because when you start doing it for somebody else, and then you do the same thing for your work while you're making art, while you're creating and telling a story, you will have the knowledge that you need to create powerful images. And this one, for example. Again, where is the key light? Oh, it's coming from the right, I can feel it. It's very strong, it's a cold winter light. But then when you pay attention, the shadow here is different. The direction, it doesn't match this shadow. And then I'm like, he's using another light here to highlight this area. So you have two different sources, and maybe a third one as well, I don't know, maybe, on the window. But then what is this? This is the color contrast. There is a strong orange light to direct the viewer inside the space into the leading characters. And this orange light doesn't affect anything else than just inside the fire, which is beautiful, very well done. And then, oh, there's highlights. Again, there's highlights. There's highlights. So basically, there must be a spotlight here, looking down, another one here, looking there. And then you start building the light. And when it comes to make it for your own work, you already have the knowledge to analyze it in the same way and decide how to light. Okay? This is the approach. This is what I'm expecting you to see on films. Again, so first time, enjoy the film, enjoy the story. Don't get me wrong, my eyes is always on the story. Second time, why you like it so much. It's the lighting, break down the lighting. It was the color, why he's using the orange. It was the composition, why he's using 276 aspect ratio. Tarantino, he brought back something that we never had for 50 years. He brought back the 276 aspect ratio. Usually we get up to 239. And he brought it back because he's a storyteller. And when I was living here, I had the opportunity to see his films in two different aspect ratios. One, the classic 235, and one, the super wide format that only 50 cinemas in the world support. And I think it's mostly in the US. So basically, I've seen his latest films in 276. It's a unique experience. And actually, the last film, I was in Los Angeles, and the one before, I was here in New York. And both, for me, it was an experience because he just changed the aspect ratio, which means he changed the game. He changed everything. And he's the only one doing it. It's inspiring that he decided to bring something back that everybody forget, but not him. He's the true storyteller in life. But again, I follow him for a long time, and I'm learning from him, and you should do the same. Let me see how long I have. Yeah, 2 minutes, David, 2 minutes. So, practical lighting, two slides, and then we go for lunch, or for whatever. So, practical lighting. Hopefully there is a cake for Chris. He needs to. There is a cake for Chris? Great, okay. Amazing, amazing, amazing. I love that stuff. I love the energy. So, practical lighting, cinematic lighting. I love practical lighting. Again, it helps me to have depth, and at the same time, I can change the mood of the image. Now, what is practical lighting? Any object in the scene that emits light and it's visible in the camera, it's called practical lighting. Any object. So the TV, practical lighting. The candles, practical lighting. The lighting fixtures, anything, lamps, all is practical lighting. Can you see the triangles? Learn to see them. Amazing way. They create depth. Change the mood, change the feeling on an image. Use practical lighting because that way you can make your work more emotional. If I receive a design and there is no practical lighting, I will ask the designer, do you have an idea of what kind of lamps you're going to use? If he said no, I will add myself lights to create the triangles and to create depth and play with mood. I don't do CGIs without having my practical lights on, even during day, even during daylight, inside and outside. Don't get me started with how New York opens the light in the Central Park during the day. That's phenomenal. This is where I'm getting my idea. I was living here, I was having lunch, and I was like, oh my God, why the lights are on? And then I look on the blue sky, the light was warm, and I'm like, oh my God, those guys are smart. Because now I'm just having an emotional response. I have blue and warm, and it's daylight. From that day on, I never do an image without having my lights on, daylight, outside, inside. It does make a difference, okay? So absorb life and take these moments back into the world of CGI. That's why we're here, to understand the process. And you can see here, I did this image for Chaos V-Ray 5. They contact me from Los Angeles, actually. They contact me and they ask me, Nikos, we want you to create a space, an image, to represent the V-Ray 5 feature, which is light mix. And we posted on Arc Daily. It was a very popular post. And as you can see, I'm using the power of practical lighting to create a mood. You can see the gobo, right? This is the gobo effect. You can see the triangles, you know, everything we just learned today. And this scene, I used light mix and I make it 10 different moods with a single render. That was the article. And this is the practical lighting that I used to create my story and the scene. And that's the last one I want to show you. It's Marcel Reader. Marcel Reader is a master that does something unique. He's like the cinematographer of Ida. He's painting highlights close to the source. Don't tell me that this highlight is coming from this light. It's impossible. But the way he does it makes me believe that it's coming from this source. It's just amazing how he's using the highlights. You see this light here? You won't get such strong highlight, but he does it. He basically paints highlights where he wants to tell the story, and he can control the intensity of these highlights because it separates them from the source, but when you see them as one, you feel like it's coming from the source, which is, this is the source, and this is the highlights. So when we do images, and we want to create this kind of idea, we're looking for opportunities, and that's a great opportunity. You have a moment, okay, this dusk, beautiful moment, you're reading a book, the view of the Shard, expensive development in London, and you want to tell a story about the space. The thing is that the candlelight in 3D, regardless how increase the intensity, it will never give you these beautiful highlights. These beautiful highlights that make this image unique, we paint them. We paint them around the source, and we're going to give you the illusion that it's coming from the source. Basically, we create a light here, looking down, always close to the source. That's why it's on the right side. It needs to be close to the source. We create another light here, looking down, another light here, looking down, and I'm going to show you this after the break, because that's a great workflow that you always have to remember that around the source, you can paint highlights, and these highlights will change completely the quality of your work. And this moment that we create, that around the candle, it creates this beautiful light, we create it by using 7, 8, 9 different lights. But all together, they're telling a story about the space, about the design, and the viewer and the investor will be happy to pay and buy this apartment because now he knows his moments and how he's going to experience the space and how he's going to have a beautiful moment around that time of day by looking on London View and the Shard. So this is visual storytelling. At the same time, unique workflows behind the scenes that we're using to celebrate the design with the power of light and the creative lighting philosophy. I'm not going to say anything more because after the break, we're going to talk about Light Mix, which is a great feature of V-Ray Corona. And yeah, and of course, is there any questions? Because David's going to kill me soon, I can feel it. But if there is a question, I would like to respond. Yes, a quick one. Kelvin temperature, because it needs to be accurate, it needs to be commercial. So basically, depending on the space, I will use Kelvin. It's always the best way.
So the only time you use color is when you're trying to create like a dramatic.
Yeah, if it's concept work, I will go for RGB. Or if the client has the freedom to play, I will go for RGB. But usually, I'm starting with Kelvin. In my house, I have these Xiaomi lights, and I can change the intensity. In this case, I'm not using Kelvin, I'm using RGB because I want to be brave enough to have purples and reds and yellows. But if it's commercial work, use Kelvin and play with like temperature of the room. And this helps to be more commercial and well professional for a beautiful apartment than just going RGB. Anything else? I scared you with David, eh?
All right, guys, refreshments are being served out there, so take your 10, 15 minutes and we'll
Yeah, we're going
get
to have to
started
do a
again.
short break, up to 15 minutes, and of course, if you have a question, welcome back to answer to go through it together afterwards. Thank you, Karina. Go out just to change the. Nice break. Thank you some of you gave me some amazing feedback during the break. I appreciate that. So let's continue. We still have until 4:30 to talk about great stuff. And negotiate to give us this beautiful space, but I lost half an hour of my presentation, so I will do my best to be quick and give you all the stuff I want to talk about. So let's continue where we left. So LightMix is an amazing tool of V-Ray and Corona. We also have our own unique tool that we created to make it even more powerful. And again, if you find it inspiring, I'm happy to send you an email. Just drop an email, say, Nikos, we love this tool, and I will send it to you. So let me show you how LightMix can work even faster and better than before. So we're going to show you how to get from morning light to golden hour and blue hour, all from the same render. But before I do that, how do we start an image? Clay, right? That's how we start. Don't forget the guides. We talked about this. As you can see, my spiral starts from here on the right and gets your eyes into the image. And along the spline, there is moment. You can see here. All the lights on, all the practicals, Kelvin, warm and low temperature. So my tip for the clay is to keep the lights on, exclude them from the clay. I want to see the light. Exclude the glasses so the light can come in. And another tip is to exclude the floor. And you might ask me, why to exclude the floor? So basically, by excluding the floor, you get better contrast. If you don't exclude the floor and everything is white, the client sometimes doesn't like what he's seeing because it's too bright and there's no contrast. So by excluding the floor, you're getting the right contrast. And when you start applying materials, the light is not going to change a lot because the main material, which is the floor and the walls, they're excluded. So exclude the floor and the walls if you want, but mostly the floor, because that way you have more accurate lighting and much better visually image to present to the client. When I say clay white, I'm talking about RGB 180. This is my range, 180 RGB. This is my clay render. So excluding the floor, excluding the lights, excluding the glass, and keep displacement on. That's another great tip. As you can see here, I have displacement on in the materials, and it's just beautiful. So that's a great way for us to show our clients the composition before we talk about the next phase. And this is the morning light, just a beautiful morning light. As you can see, where the spiral ends, the story, there is light. So if somebody's going to sit here to read a book, that's fine. But if not, you need light to celebrate the moment and create an interesting composition and story. So light is your friend. So when you're composing, think about the spiral, in this case, and think about where the light is going to shine on the moment. After that, you have a person sitting here. These days, you can easily get a 3D model to look photoreal. It's not on my presentation, but I can show you what I mean. By using AI tools like Stable Diffusion, by using like Crea, Magnific, Leonardo. There is so many tools out there that they can help you to create a 3D person and make it realistic. So, for example, here, since I'm talking about that, I will show you how I used Cosmos, an amazing library of Cosmos inside Max, and how I convert this person into a realistic person by using the tools, okay? Stable Diffusion is a very popular one, but there is so many out there. We're also working on a new AI course, which is going to launch soon, to talk about these tools, because I think now more than ever, we have to embrace the new technology, and now more than ever, we have to find a way to make these tools working for us and make us more productive and make us more creative, okay? Just a small break about AI and how we're using it in the studio. So basically here, now that we have this technology, if I was doing this image again, I won't be afraid to have a person sitting there from a 3D library, because I won't be afraid, because I have these tools, they're going to make them realistic without spending hours on post-production. It can be like a one-click solution. And then the light mix helped me to go from one mood into another. And you can see the gobo on the top left here. This is the gobo. Again, there's no windows behind it, but there's a light, give you the illusion that there is. That's what gobo has to offer. So this is the golden hour. This is the blue hour. So basically I'm using HDRI, sun and sky, everything in the same render. And that's amazing. This is the power of light mix. You can change the mood, you can change the light, you can change the intensity, you can change the color. Everything from one single render. Let's see it in action. Here, this is the morning light. Here you can see on the right, I have all my lights. So the first tip, name your lights. You don't want to get lost. Light mix is very helpful, but if you don't name the lights, you can get lost. So name the lights, and that's why we create the script I'm going to show you soon. So name the lights. Keep the lights white so you can play with the color in the light mix. And make sure that the light mix, it doesn't go too high. For example, up to 5 times up is more than enough. If you need more than 5 times up, change the intensity to the scene. Otherwise, you're going to break the light mix. You're going to get noise. So my tip is not to go too high in the light mix. If you have to go too high, change the intensity to the scene. So basically, you have the colors here and the intensity and the lights. And as you can see, I can easily turn the sun off. I can easily turn the sky off. Now I have contrast. I can easily decide how much contrast I want by playing with changing the sky, how much sun I want. This is light mix. The background, everything I need is here. And you can save the light mix and load back a different time of day by just simply saying golden hour. You see, this is the gobo. I can turn it on and off. This is the sun. So basically, light painting. That's what I like about light mix. You can do whatever you like. It's not about changing intensity and color. It's about bringing your creative ideas to life. And then I can also use an HDRI in the same light mix, and I can actually change to blue hour. Now that's interesting. You see all the highlights? There's a highlight on the table, there's a highlight on the chair, there's a highlights on the objects. This is all created by me. If I turn the highlights off, the extra lights, this is what you get. Basically, somebody will say, like, I don't like this material, but if I open the light, oh, actually, there is depth in this material. So basically, what I'm saying is that the light shining on materials around the source can increase the quality of your work. All you have to do is create these invisible highlights in space close to the main source to give me the illusion they're coming from here. But in reality, it's me painting with light. You can see the highlight here. You can see the highlight on the chair, the highlight everywhere. These highlights, it's just extra lights that you have to bring into the scene. It's going to make everything look more interesting. And if I turn everything off, you can see that the ceiling light and the highlights, they create the space. And the cool thing is that you can easily change the color and then just copy the color into the highlights, and you can easily play and decide how much highlights you want. This is a very important workflow. Don't expect that this light will ever shine anywhere you want. It's a 3D software, but by having this knowledge, you can easily replicate what you want to see by creating this highlights layer, and from here, you can do anything you like. And of course, you also have the other lights. You see, by naming them properly, I'm not lost. I know exactly where I am. I know exactly what I'm doing. And this is the background. You see, by having an image as a background, you can turn it on and off and make it a light source. And the cool thing about this is that it can affect the space. You see how the colors coming from outside inside? Simple things that you can do these days with the light mix. And this is, for me, innovation. And you have to master this workflow so you can actually paint with light and tell your story. You see, I can do everything I have in my mind. I can just play. I can make this warm if I want. I can bring the sky and make it cold. I can do whatever I like. You see, this is the sky. I can change the color of the sky. It's just play, you know. I can bring the sun. I can remove the sun. I have a different sun. All you have to do is think about this, name the lights, and play with the hierarchy. And anytime I want, I can just load my preset And here we go, blue hour again. So let's talk about this workflow, how to create the highlights in space. So we'll go inside Max, here. First of all, my script, okay? I'm going to press interactive rendering. This script helped many companies around the world at the moment to work with light mix more creative than ever. So what it does, you run the script, automatically you can change the name of the lights interactively. For example, the morning light, I'm just going to call it test. See what happens. Now it's called test, interactively. And not just that, if I isolate the light, automatically the name now, it's called test. So organize the file at the same time. The moment you write test in the light mix, the lights in the scene becomes test. The moment you say anything, automatically happens. That's a fast way to work. But there's more. Through the script, you can actually select, delete, rename the lights, but there is something that Max doesn't do, and we can. Max doesn't allow you to change the order of the lights. You have to delete them and create them again. But in Corona, by using the script, you can actually press interactive, you can change the order. Let's say that the evening it needs to go up, and then the test it needs to go down. Just press interactive rendering. What happened? I just changed the order. This is not possible by Max, only by Max script. So basically, you will see now that evening is up, space and test, you see? I just changed the order. This is a great way of reorganizing your lights, renaming your lights, delete the lights, sort by name, whatever you like. So if you guys are interested in the script, I'm happy to offer it to you. Just let me know or drop me an email, go to Creative Lighting and say, Nikos, I would love to have the script. Happy to send it to you. I'm afraid it's for Max, yes, because we use Max script. We also work on V-Ray, but in V-Ray, because it works in a different way than Corona, you can still select, rename, delete the lights, that's it. In Corona, you can also have the option to reorder. Yeah, so anytime, if you think that it's going to help you or your team, let us know. Happy to send it over, because for me, I cannot work without it. Maybe I'm used to it, but it's important for me to have these tools. Of course, we'll share this to the Corona team and the Chaos team, and they're already working to implement as many ideas as they can in the feature versions. So that's one thing about this. About the backgrounds, what I have to say is that if you want to have a background and you want to get these colors, all you need to do is use a light material, like this is a light material. And then what happens is that the light goes through the space, but it doesn't affect the sun and sky. Basically, there is an option in Corona, occlude other lights. If you bring it on, this light will cast shadows. If you turn it off, the light will go through it. And what happens is that I can actually paint light and get the colors of the space inside the room. This is a nice workflow. This is outside of the windows. You just map a plane and the map, and what happens is this. You're getting the view and the colors into the space. Just a small trick. Because now I don't have to do a lot of work in Photoshop because I already have realistic results coming from the backplate. And the backplates, unsplash.com is a great website. It's free, it's 5K, and you can use them as backgrounds. And this is what a 5K unsplash.com background. But then you can use it as a light to bring light inside the space. About the override material, again, 180 RGB is a great way to start. If I override my scene, here, if I override my scene, what's going to happen? Everything will become white, but I will still exclude the lights and the windows and the floor. This is the tip. So basically, I just started interactive rendering. I'm going to use the option to exclude. V-Ray has the same option. I'm going to override clay and then exclude the objects. And you will see that now it will be white white clay RGB 180, and you can actually present this to the client and ask them to judge on composition. But don't forget, during this stage, you have to use the guides, use the script, image composition, it's free for Corona, or use the guides in V-Ray, because now you can just simply click on the guides, move them left, and make decisions. This script has more powerful, more ideas. You can actually create presets, you see, 276, 239, 235. I can actually have presets, and I can see how the composition I create looks in different aspect ratio. So create your presets, and you can easily say, oh, what about to go a bit more cinematic? What about go 69? And you can see it interactive. And that's great for me, because without giving any hard time, I'm just going to go through aspect ratios, and I can decide which one is going to work for me. So work fast, work smart, and use these tools. They're free, and they're great. You can use this tool for V-Ray and Corona. It's just a Mac script free. Now, if you're using SketchUp, just Google SketchUp composition guides script, and there is one. You know, just do what you have to do to find those tools in your own package. And if you cannot find them, use Photoshop. That's why I give you Photoshop as a knowledge before, because they're very important, these workflows. The highlights. This is a very important workflow. Basically, it's always the same. The highlight is a disk light in V-Ray and Corona, always in the same number, like 0.03 meters. It's just a small disk light, 0.03 meters. Directionality, again, my favorite number, 0.48, because all you need is a spotlight on top of the table or anywhere you want, from here 1 meter away from the object. So basically, go 1 meter away from the object. It's a good starting point. Use directionality, use a disk light, and then move the highlight where you want to tell your story. And usually, there's no properties, not even reflections, because what you want is something fast and quick to affect the diffuse. If you have a metallic object and you want the reflections to be affected by the light, you have to click reflections on. So for example, here, I have metallic objects, and this light has reflection properties on. But the chair, I don't need to have reflection on. What I want is a diffuse light to affect the chair. So this will make it fast. Here, you see, this doesn't need to have reflection on. All you need is to have highlight on the chair. Usually, go closer to the subject. It makes things more realistic. Go close to the subject, 1 meter away, use directionality, make it warm, use Kelvin, it's good to go. Let's see a preview. Whoa, here. So, this light is usually around 1 meter away. You see? It's small highlights around 1 meter away from the objects. You see? This is down here and close to the source. There is a highlight here below for the table. And inside, there is another light here. You see? There's another light. And another light below as a highlight. If you put them in the same layer in the light mix, you're getting one light select. So those two lights, if you put them in the same light select layer, they will become one light in the light mix. Here, it says ceiling. Inside, there is two lights. Those two lights create one light mix layer, which is this one. So basically, now I have two lights inside one layer, and they're working together. Check this out. You see, this is the light, this is the highlight. If you have them in the same layer, they become one light, which means I can change intensity and color, and automatically it changes. And the highlights, I have many in the same layer. This is the highlights, this is the scenic light. So basically in Max, I have many, many lights inside the same layer, and in light mix, it becomes one layer. It's a smart way of working and organizing the file. It's fast to render, it's easy to control, and that way you can tell many stories from one single render. This is the idea. And about the lighting, my tip is to always use the daylight system of Max. The daylight system of Max has a huge benefit of you be able to change the time of day. It's great for commercial, it's great for planning, it's great for everything. All you have to do is start the max daylight system and decide if you're going to use Corona or Vide. So if I go here and select the sun, you will see that my sun is used by daylight system of max. Use the Corona sun. Now the benefit is that here you have time of day. So basically, I can easily go from in the evening light and make it 6 in the morning. I can play with feelings, I can play with emotions. Now I just have a morning light, super warm, and I can easily change the rotation, the north direction, and start painting with light. Just make it 0. So basically, I'm going to have this morning light in a different 360 rotation. And then all you have to do is just rotate the sun until you find a nice time of day. It's just such an easy way of working, that it's better than manual. And if you want manual mode, it's here. You can just go manual anytime. So I highly recommend you to play and see this kind of workflows. It's just easier for me to light, a much better way of working and smarter. And you can just use one window and play with time of day. You see, I just play and I'm like, okay, I want a morning light, and then I decide the patterns of light and dark. It's by far the best way of making things, so I highly recommend you to use daylight system of max and then link Corona or Vide, because then it's easier to find patterns and play with feelings and moments. Start by thinking what time of day is going to represent your vision based on the feelings you want to create, and then it's the patterns. And north direction is going to help you to go and find different partners in space. For example, the 0, it's just going to give you long shadows coming from the left, the sun. Yeah, you see, it's all about starting with time of day and then playing with patterns of light and dark, and you can easily change the sun direction, the quality of the image, and you can play with the contrast of the image. If you want sun, how much sun you want, what color you want to be. It's just amazing what you can do by combining this with light mix. As you can see, my sky is colder and my sun is warmer. And all happened with Kelvin, because that way I can make something more emotionally by making the sky colder and the sun warmer. And you can do whatever you like. I'm just giving you ideas of how you can use light mix creatively and play with intensity and color, and use a daylight system of max to play with time of day, which is something unique workflow that I like to use. It doesn't matter what I do, it's just easier for me to work with this workflow. I put everything in light mix, and then from here I can just decide if I want a morning light or an evening light. It's just easy, you see, everything changed. The temperature changed. I'm just changing the time of day. Now I'm getting up to 12, so you have more blue sky, less warm sun, and you can just continue doing this until night. And let's say that you want 3 p.m., then what you're missing is the sun, so basically you just go back to north direction, and you're playing until you find something interesting at 3 p.m. It's just easy as that. So I prefer this than just moving the sun around without knowing what I'm doing. So top view, you see, this is the sun. Position it in the center of the scene. And basically all you do is when you're changing the time, automatically will change. You can see here. And then you have the north direction to play with patterns. For me, it's just an easy, unique way of working. Otherwise, you can go manual, and you can still use this, even on manual mode, and move the sun around. Go front view. You see I have 2 suns. With light mix, I can turn them on and off. And if you want to use HDRI, it's all about playing with rotation and gamma. If you lower the gamma, the high contrast HDRI, if you increase the gamma, it's going to be more soft look and soft shadows comparing to a lower gamma, which makes things more contrasty and the shadows a bit more hard than usually. So gamma is my tip when it comes to HDRI. Rotation, again, and also temperature, it means you control the color of the HDRI. So for me to create the blue hour, I just change the temperature to make it bluer. If I go back to default settings, it's going to have a warm feeling. If I go up the temperature, it's going to make it even warmer, you see? But if you want to get a cold look, you go down. It's just simple things that I use to tell my story. Now, this is a blue hour. And the down you go, the colder it gets. So by having color correction, gamma, temperature, and rotation, that's all you need for the HDRI workflow, regardless video or Corona. So try to keep things simple, because the most important thing is what story you're trying to say, rather than how this works, because it's so simple. So again, gamma, temperature, and rotation is the only thing you need to know when it comes to HDRI, and this is the rotation. You can just simply rotation 360. But the temperature and the gamma is what you need to be aware of. And if you put all this in light mix, you can easily, again, go from one look into another. And I just used sun and sky for the morning light, but I used HDRI for the blue hour. And this is all happened at the same render. And this is how our clients, this is Kilograph in LA, they are director of Kilograph. This is how they're using light mix. This is V-Ray after this, the course, same as today. Juan Carlos, and this is in V-Ray. This is a beautiful scene that I received from the Chaos team, and I did the lighting, and I used light mix in V-Ray. It's always good for me to keep practicing with both tools, because I believe that an artist knowing both tools is going to help him to find job, or a company supporting both software is going to help them to find artists. So I'm always between those two software, and I'm going to show you Vantage as well now. So this is in V-Ray, just to demonstrate. I think I have it here. Yeah, so this is basically light mix in V-Ray. If I turn everything off, just to see the way I think with lights. So, for example, this is the lights, okay? And if I turn off intensity, this is what I get. But for me, I want the light to go more up and down, because this is too dark. So simply, I create two invisible lights, one up, one down, see what happens. Light painting, you know, light painting. Play with the light. If it doesn't do what you want, make it work. So by having two extra lights, one up, one down, I create the highlights that I want to avoid darkness. Now this, I can appreciate the material. It's simple techniques, right? But light mix helped me to be more creative, and I can play with the intensity of these extra lights. If you use the same color, nobody will know, okay? So be creative. There's no rules. Just play. So this is the interior, the lamps. And then you have the IS lights on the back. You have the fill light, cold and warm. You see hierarchy, always. What else? Scenic light. The cabinet light. Then you have the sky. Then you have the sun. Here you go. You can also just, turn everything off, activate the sky, make it 1, activate the sun, make it 1, change the color back to default, because now that's a bit more dramatic, just make them less warm, let's say that, and then change the sky, let's make it a bit more blue. There. And you can play with hierarchy now. Just turn the sun, the sun needs to be warmer. There. You can decide how much warm you want the sun to be, because that's light mix. You can just do whatever you like. You have presets. And you can play with everything. You can play with the hierarchy, how much sun you want, how much sky you want. You want more contrast, less contrast. You want the lights to be on. It's just amazing what you can do. But name the lights, create the light mix, then you have the power. And you can actually get that into Vantage and do the same in real-time rendering. Check this out. There is a button where you can actually get the scene into Vantage. It's super fast. See how fast it's going to be. I click the button. It's exporting everything. And now I'm in Vantage. It's down here. It's going to open automatically. Yeah, the scene now is in Vantage, full screen. Now the whole thing went to Vantage. I can see that this is overburned, but let's go and press filmic tone mapping. Okay, that's fixed. And now you have real-time rendering. Check this out. Just gonna turn everything off. The lights, this all came from V-Ray. Just turn them, you see, it's real-time. Light mix in real-time. You have the sun. This is the sky. This is the sun. You can turn off the sky. This is just sun. Or you can have HDRI. And you can use Cosmos inside Vantage. And you can just drag and drop HDRIs. See how fast we can create images. Real-time rendering. Just this is the presets. Let's get one inside. Nice. This is HDRI. Turn off Cosmos. Sorry. Let's find a better rotation. I'm not happy with this. Whoa, 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 whoa. Now. Alex, now it's the magic is happening. Now I'm inside the real-time rendering. I have the feeling, okay? I have the beautiful. Let's play it with intensity just a bit less. Okay. Now there is darkness, right? What do you need? You need to remove the contrast. You need fill lights. Let's go to the lights. Nightstand. Nice. Let's open the fill lights. Okay, let's make them blue. Use the preset. Simple as that. Let's do more fill lights. Use the presets. So you see, Vantage, real-time rendering, hierarchy. They look flat. Why? The intensity. Let's decide where your eye needs to go. Let's take the eyes into the chair, which means lower the fill light on the left, and then increase the fill light on the right. You see, I can play with the hierarchy. I can decide where my eyes will go. And then the lights here and the nightstands, let's make them warm, like super warm. Yes. You can decide how much warm, it's up to you and your story. But you can see how easy it is to play with the lights, to play with the intensity, to play with the color. And don't forget, it's real time. What do I mean? I'm going to rotate, and everywhere I look and stop rendering, the image will be clean. So let's, let's rotate the camera here, okay? As you can see, the depth of field is off, so basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to click here and says focus point on the pillows. Now this is clean, or focus points on the background. Now the pillows are soft. And let's change and create sun and sky now. Just go crazy now. I'm just playing around. So open sky. This is without. This is with physical sky, and this is with sun. And let's create volumetrics. It's just so easy. You can have different fog volumetrics presets, but it's so easy to create images where they're emotional and cinematic. And don't forget, it's real time, so I just move around, I leave my mouse, boom. Everything is real time. And you can decide how much fog you want. If you want fog, you have density, you have height, you have everything you need to make it, you see, less or stronger. It's just amazing that we're living in these interesting times, that everything becomes faster. But again, no story, no party. Think about what you're trying to communicate. This is just tools that can help you to render fast. And again, everywhere I go, I'm just back to the camera. You can feel the fog, right? If I turn it off again, no depth. So you can play with different types of fog. You see, more depth or God rays. It's up to you what you want to create. But it's so cool to have these tools. So I highly recommend you to play with software. And the good news, Corona 12 is coming out, and they will support Vantage, which means you can go to Vantage from V-Ray and Corona. And many people asking about this, so it's happening in May or June. So yeah, this is Vantage. Try it out, see how it can help you and your ideas. Yeah. Hopefully I show you how powerful the software can be. And this is my tips. This is my tips for light mix, okay? Again, name your lights. Choose the right intensity. It means medium in the scene, so don't have to go crazy on the light mix. Keep your lights wide into the scene. You can take a photo if you want. Keep the lights wide into the scene. That way you can use light mix. You can save and load your light mix files at any point in V-Ray and Corona. You see there's a save button here. There's a save button down here. Just save and load light mix. And don't forget to keep lightings into channels to minimum. I have clients sending me some 25, 30 layers like, Nikos, it's slow. Well, of course it's slow. You just destroy your memory. You just destroy your CPU. You have to denoise all these layers. So 10, 12, it's more than enough for me, for any scene. I mean, 10, 12 layers is more than enough. And bake intensity and colors into the scene, it means it's going to bring back all the colors and all the lights into the scene, which is great for post-production because it means that the color information is back into the scene and the lighting passes and the passes, reflection passes and so on, they're more accurate. They have color. Otherwise, they're going to be white. So this is post-production thing, but just in general, keep in mind that the light mix, it doesn't affect the channels behind the scene. They will still be white. So for example, here, you can see I have color, right? It's warm. But if I go to the light inside, it's white. So if you want to bring the color back into the scene, you have to bake. It's a button called, how it's called? Here. So basically you have to bake. It's a button called scene. What does, it's going to bring, when you click it, it's going to bring the color and the intensity back into the scene. But if you're happy with the quality of the work you have on your screen, you don't have to bake because you don't need Photoshop. You can just do color correction in Photoshop without need the passes, the render elements. So that's the idea. And for speed, if you're using V-Ray and Corona, I have some tips that's going to help you to render faster. I'm talking about 40, 50, even 60% faster. For example, when there is a light close to an object, it creates fireflies. It creates something that takes forever to render, and this noise is something you don't want in your scene. And there is a solution. You can change the material. When the light is close to geometry, that geometry has a material, and that material needs to be changed to Corona ray sheets material for Corona or V-Ray override material for V-Ray. I'm going to demonstrate both in a second. When you're loading your bitmaps, believe it or not, if you're using Corona or V-Ray bitmap, not max bitmap, you're saving 10 to 15% speed. But make sure that all the maps are Corona or V-Ray. It gives you fast rendering. When you're using color in max, use Corona or V-Ray color. Again, it's faster to render. When you're using directionality, don't go more than 0.5. If you go more than 0.5, you're creating noise. And diffuse brightness, 220 is white. If you go higher, slower, low contrast. Don't use very high materials, white materials like on the walls. If you use very white material on the wall, like 250, you're going to have slow render and less contrast. If you want to go accurate, lower the intensity, the value of the white up to 220. 180 is white. You don't have to go higher. Same for the textures. If you use a pure white material on the wall, you're going to have slow render, low contrast. So you're destroying the quality of the rendering by using pure white materials or pure red material because it doesn't exist in real life. So keep that in your mind. And let's demonstrate the fireflies. I help many companies to reduce render times, and you will see how and why now. So basically, here, inside, there is a light, and this light, you see, this light is very close to the material. So regardless what is the material, it's going to create fireflies. It's getting worse, it's getting worse, it's getting worse. Stop. So this is the fireflies. These white parts, it's called fireflies. If you see the indirect pass, it's full of noise. This will make you a slow render. There is a solution. The solution is to make your material Corona ray switch material. So the metal, whatever it is, make it Corona ray switch material. And then it's going to ask you the reflection, metal, instance. The refraction, metal, instance. Direct visibility, how it's going to look, metal. So everything metal. But the GI, default, make it Corona legacy material, which means there's no reflection, it's zero, legacy material, and make it black, nothing else. What is going to happen is going to remove the fireflies, just make it black. Okay? Now if I render again, it's going to look like metal, but it's gone. It's like no noise, super clean, super fast. That's it. This can save you hours of rendering. All you have to do is use Corona resin material and make it black the GI. By making it black the GI, default settings, you're getting speed. Again, I'm talking about reducing 8 hours render into 4 hours render, 6 hours render into 3, even 2 hours render. It's just insane. Or a 2 hours render into 15 minutes. I was in Toronto, and Pure Blink told me that thanks to my tips, I reduced a 2 hours render down to 15 minutes. It's insane how much you can save by just playing with these things. And if I open the V-Ray, the same thing in V-Ray, there's no difference, but if I open the scene in V-Ray, the name is different. It's called V-Ray override material. It will be the same thing. I'm going to render, you're going to see like, oh, there is fireflies. Yep, you see them? This is fireflies. They're just getting brighter and brighter and brighter. Okay, that's fine, close this render, we don't like it. Go to the material and make it a V-Ray override material. V-Ray override material. Okay, that's a lot of stuff here. There. Keep the material. Now it's going to ask me again. Reflection, metal. Refraction, metal. Base material, metal. GI, default black. GI is where you put a default V-Ray material and you make it black. That's it. Check this out. Render. You will be surprised, but it's gone. Nothing. So these small tips will save you hours of rendering. Just try them out. Let me know how it goes. Yeah, you will get speed. So from now on, there will be no technical information, just creative stuff, which I like. But speed is important, that's why I give you these tips. So let's do a breakdown from London, and then ask you to be interactive and tell me some things that I have some questions for you. I have the space, it's in London, Elephant and Castle, and the client, he wanted us to create an image about this penthouse where the residents can actually have dinner together, community, and enjoy the view. When I'm hearing two things in a meeting, it's like a red alert. Like the first question is, okay, so what's most important, the dinner experience or the view? And the client says, the dinner experience. Oh, wow, perfect. Because now he just helped me to find the first focus point. It's the dinner experience. So ask the right questions. The image starts from here, the spiral starts from here, and draws your eyes entirely into the image, and where it stops, you have the moment. So the leading character, he needs to sit here. And you need some people here to complete the composition and create a hierarchy, like first focus point, second focus point, and third focus point, which is the view. So basically, from the beginning of the project, you have to think about the hierarchy, the story, everything. And if the client says to me that the most important thing is the dining experience, it's like asking me to create a mood board. And Chris, you asked about the mood boards. This is a real mood board for a real commercial job. And my tip, label the images. Label them out. Number one, people composition. We always look in photography, paintings, and cinema these days, plus AI. Plus AI. If you cannot find the references, use AI, like Midjourney. So, number one, people composition. How people sitting on the table, you will be surprised. So you have to get inspired by how people sitting on the table. And by looking Caravaggio, by looking Da Vinci, looking the masters, how people sitting on the table, number one. Number two, dinner table composition. Another great thing, how you as humans, how we're dressing our tables, you will be surprised, like plates and wine Flowers, it's just insane how many things you can find on a table when you have a lot of people around. So dinner table composition. Number 3, top light. We knew there's a top light here, so I'm looking to get inspired by how people looking when there is a top light. Top light, top light, top light, everywhere, okay? Number 4, sometimes when you're looking for references, you get lucky. What do I mean? Motion, blur, and focus. We found this reference, and it was very inspiring to us, like, oh, look at this. The people, they have motion blur, but everything else is in focus. We said to the client, what about doing this on the image for the first time ever? And the client was like, sure, why not? Let's try it out. And I'm like, yes, I would never have this idea. Thank God I have my references. I present this to the client. The client says, yes, let's move forward. What is next? This is the composition. This is the mood board. What is next on the journey? Is the mood draft, the most creative and important stage. This is where you have to get the mood right. Basic materiality. All you care about is to have the mood for the client to agree. You can sketch your ideas, you can paint until the clients agreed to move on the next phase, which is the advanced, and then you go final. So basically, everything I talked about the leading character, about the people to complete the composition and the view, everything is here. But the idea came from the first day I started working on the project. I knew that I have to create this kind of story from my composition early stage. I knew that I have to create something here to complete my spiral. This is the mood draft. So now what is missing is the advanced draft to refine everything, refine the textures, the models, the materials, the light, just refine and go final. And this is the advanced draft. Now something happened here. That's a very interesting moment of the workshop. So far, from the other workshops, it's by far the most creative moment of the workshop, because here what happened, the artist that did the advanced draft, it wasn't the same artist that did the mood draft. And I believe that this artist didn't follow the principles and the creative lighting philosophy, and didn't follow the vision of the image. And I need your help now. You need to tell me what this artist did and send us out of the vision of the image. And by thinking what we learned today, by applying the creative lighting philosophy and the principles that we learned, you should be able to tell me what happened. And this is a great moment because you need to be interactive as much as possible and help me to find all the elements that we have to fix to get the image right. So who wants to start and tell me what's wrong with this image? What happened? The moon. Why on earth you make the moon the brightest part of the image? We talked about this. My eyes goes into the moon. So he didn't follow the principles. That's why I started this workshop by giving you the principles. So the moon is off. If you want the moon, I will accept it, but make it big and soft. So the moon is off. It doesn't help me to look on the spiral, on the leading, because the client says it's all about the dining experience, and the first thing I'm looking is the moon. Second problem, who wants to go second? It is too bright. I mean, how on earth this light is brighter than the space? So it doesn't have anything realistic. So basically, he mixed up the hierarchy of the lights. He didn't follow the principles. And suddenly, there is so much bright on the face. We have two amazing comments so far. Who's going to go third? Yes. Oh my God, yes. Yellow in the middle of the image? Yeah, the yellow is the most powerful color in the world. The yellow is where it's going to take all my attention. So basically, he used color contrast in the wrong part of the image. If you want yellow, we use it on the leading character. So basically, he did everything he can to get us away from the story. He didn't think about the power of the color. So the color contrast, it doesn't help. Excellent so far. You're doing better than early location. More. I want more. There is more. That doesn't match, you mean? Yeah, it needs more Photoshop work to make them look closer. It does have an HDRI, but it doesn't match. So basically, you need to do better post-production. Oh, definitely there's nothing behind, yeah. So you need to fake it. Fake it till you make it. Yeah. More? Is there? The buildings will have a photography in the background, so basically it will be photomontaged. And since the view, because the client says he doesn't want the view to be number one, we're fine. We're just going to make sure that everything happens here, not there. So basically the point is one focus point, second focus point, and third focus point. This is the idea. We don't want the view to be something spectacular because the client says this is most important. So we need to figure out even the contrast and the mood needs to change on the background, so everything helps the eye to look on the first focus point. Yeah, which is good because the client agreed for us to have blurred people because of the reference that we found. So imagine without references, how can you communicate this to the client? How on earth I'm going to convince the client to say yes to me to have motion blurred people and focus? There's no way. But by having a reference and a vision, you can agree. And he said yes. But for me, the issue here, since you're talking about this, amazing. This is hard to find. This is great stuff. So basically, if you want the focus to be on the leading character, you have to give him power. By having 3 small paintings, you get the power away. Make one big painting and help him to see the power. And if you want to go deeper, imagine if the painting was matching the color of the background, it was going to look like a window. So, you know, this is a great tip that you just said. You know, the paintings take the direction away from the leading character. So if you want a painting, make them big, so you can actually have him in the front, match the color of the background, and make it look like a window. You're going to make the space look bigger. And the only thing that nobody mentioned so far, but everything else is here, is that the table, what happened to the table? The flowers, the glasses, the wine, the craziness. It's gone. He needs to go back. He didn't follow the mood board because the mood board was clear. It's empty. Where's the flowers? So basically, we look on the mood boards because on the references, every image we found, there was a craziness on the table. You have to make this experience to the image. Look at that. Everything is full of and flowers and glasses and food and everything, plates. So you have to get this dinner table composition, you have to get it into the image. You have to make it like a real experience. So what is the solution? The solution is to help this artist to see the problems and help him to create something outstanding, even if he didn't succeed on this phase, by give him guidance and explain to him that you want a moon? Great, soft. Don't make it the brightest part of the image. You want people here? Black and white. Why? Because yellow is going to take my eyes away. Use color here if you want, on the left, not on the lady. Maybe have a couple here or 2 people to interact better with this lady because at the moment I don't feel the connection. One painting behind to focus on the leading character. Give him power. And ideally, as you can see, a square painting with the color of the sky, it makes the space look bigger. Bring some highlights here because for some reason it looks way too dark. And bring back all these beautiful flowers and stuff that you get on a real dinner. And the same person, with guidance, he created this. And that's inspiring. That's why I came all the way from Athens. Because these principles, these ideas, can make that person to create something which I call a masterpiece. Because this is from 2014, this is 10 years ago. Of course it's easier these days, but getting from here into here with guidance and critique, it means a lot. And you can see that all the comments and everything we discussed actually applied at the end, and it does help the viewer to see like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It was an excellent, I think it's a great example of how things go wrong in production and how these principles and these ideas can help you to fix the problems. And I'm glad because you find all the issues, and I'm very proud of you guys. So, yeah, congrats. Any questions? Not just about this, about anything. Anything you want to ask. Vantage is new. So basically, it's something that we start working to, and we're going to work more and more, and especially when Corona supports Vantage to give us the full freedom. And now the more features the Vantage has, the better for me to use it. So yeah, until this now, I was using VRA and Corona, but now I'm also into Vantage and waiting for all the new features like Corona, for example, because I'm working a lot with Corona, I need to have this freedom to go from Max Corona into Vantage. So this is where the industry is going, this is what I like. Yeah, it's something new for VRA as well, they're investing a lot of resources on that, so from Chaos. So I'm guessing, yeah, very soon we'll have, especially May or June, we're going to have Corona in Vantage, and many studios around the world, we're going to try and see how this real-time rendering can affect the way they think, the way they design. I mean, it does affect it because we have many companies doing real-time rendering, succeeding on real-time rendering, and I'm glad to see that Chaos also is involved on this technology, and plus with some AI tools that are coming out from Chaos this year is going to change the game, like AI, material creation, and Cosmos, and so on. So yeah, this is where we're going. Yeah, yeah. You can get back Vantage into Max, back the stuff in VRA and Corona. So this kind of collaboration is where it's moving forward, and that's the right direction. It needs to be interactive. It needs to be one-click solution to go to Vantage, one-click solution to come back from Vantage. Yeah. That's what they're aiming for, yeah. This is where it's going. And I think this year we're gonna see a lot of changes because this is where the direction is going. You also saw that you can now go from Enscape into V-Ray, the Escape into Cinema 4D, Enscape into Max. You know, they're trying to make it like a real cloud thing where everything works together, and yeah. It's very interesting to see where this is going, but it's definitely going there in the right direction. Yeah. PBR? Yeah, so basically next week we have the masterclass series, and we're going to talk about realistic materials and PBR workflow in VRA and Corona. It's free to register. It's 5 p.m. on Thursday or next week. I highly recommend you to just, you can visit our website. No, because this takes, yeah. So basically, you just go masterclass. This is about today. If you click here, you can register for free. And we'll have 8 masterclasses. This is number 5 next week. So basically, we're going to talk about creating realistic materials in ArcViz and talk about PBR workflow in VRA and Corona. So I highly recommend you to just go to our website and register for free, because we need at least 1-2 hours to talk about materials, not just, you know, it's a bit, it's not technical, but it takes some time. So yeah, next week. Yeah, Alex? I said replay. I just watched the latest Dune. Oh my God, yeah, the music and the story and the effects. So that's that. What else? The latest Joker I'm waiting for. I cannot wait. You know, this kind of stuff. But for me personally, the best way is to follow, not a film, to follow the cinematographer and the film director. So what I usually recommend, I can go to the Creative Lighting website members page, and you can take a photo if you want, because here I have all the masters that help me to build my knowledge. This is a members page for our clients, because we do corporate training for teams, and after the registration, the whole team gets access to this private members page. But if I go down here, this is the legends. This is the masters that help me, and you're more than welcome to take a photo. This is the masters that help me to build my knowledge. So it's an excellent question from Alex, and the answer, of course, is to see what's new, but go and find these masters, because these masters, go to IMDb and say, IMDb Emmanuel Lubezki, and you will find Birdman. You will find the best films in the world made by this master, and then you go and say Reed Moreno, or Christopher Doyle, or Alejandro Gonzalez. These masters, they have made films in the past that can truly inspire you today. And again, just to demonstrate what I mean, copy the name, Emanuel Lubezki, paste IMDb, okay? And there is all the films that he's well known for. You see, Children of Men, Gravity, The Revenant. And I can tell you a nice story about Emanuel Lubezki. He's the only cinematographer in the world that won 3 Oscars in a row. 3 Oscars in a row, that never happened before. So basically it was the Birdman, Gravity, and The Revenant. And you can find them here. So for me, it's the best way of looking for films by following those masters. And again, you will also find about top films like, for example, yeah, The Joker, I can't wait. I know it's going to be great. I know it's going to be, I'm watching the trailers and the backstage. It's like, oh my God, it's going to be a unique experience. But start from here, okay? And Replay is definitely one that I highly recommend you because I just seen it and it's beautiful cinematography. But most important is a masterclass in composition. And that was my main focus of the film. It's black and white. It's something rare to find these days. So yeah. Thank you, Alex. Yeah. The masterclass series? There's no recording available due to copyrights because all these things that I'm sharing, we have to get NDAs to our clients to approve, to allow us to share the content on a live class, but they never allow us to do anything, anything on recording, which makes sense. I understand. It's very personal for them. It's their work, and that's why we do these live classes online and on site. And yeah. So you can register, there's still 4 left, so you can still learn a lot from us, okay? But there's no recording. So yeah, this is the masters. This is who helped me to build my knowledge. Oh my God, yes. Yes, so Roger Deakins is the second cinematographer yet that he won 2 Oscars in a row. He actually won 2049 and this 1917 in 2 years. So all these people, they're the great masters that we need to follow. So guys, in the time that we have left, I will try to give us extra 10 minutes, hopefully they will agree. So basically, what do you care about most? Exterior workflow or color theory? What do you think is going to make more sense for you? Exterior? Exterior? Let's do exterior. Okay. Let's do exterior because in the masterclass series, we already done the exterior, so you cannot see it again, but the color theory is going to happen on masterclass 7, so if you want to see it, you can register for free. So, aerial perspective. This is one thing that you have to get right if you want to make beautiful work exterior. What does it mean, aerial perspective? It means that the foreground, it needs to be high contrast and high saturated compared to the background. And this exists in photography, in cinema, everywhere in the world. So as you can see here, even Mona Lisa, the foreground has high contrast than the background and high saturation. Same thing here, high contrast, low contrast, high contrast, low contrast. You have to get it right. These days, V-Ray supports aerial perspective. You just activate, it's there. Corona supports volumetrics. You activate, it's there. So basically, it's not hard to get depth these days on exteriors, okay? And I will show you in Photoshop how to get depth without having anything, not even render elements. Second, we talked about many guides. What about one-point perspective? Who is the master? Stanley Kubrick. I love his work. Such a beautiful artist. I mean, The Shining, back in the days, A Space Odyssey, all these films, they're great. And you can see the leading lines, you can see the symmetry. So Stanley Kubrick is a great master to follow as well. And you know, who is another great master of symmetry? Wes Anderson. So one-point perspective is a great way to think about when you're making exteriors as well and how you can create these effects, or with symmetry, or one-point perspective, or leading lines. Now the color schemes. It's something new that I'm doing lately. I'm going to museums, I'm watching a painting, and I'm trying to figure out the scheme. By practicing daily, you can build your knowledge around color. For example, here we have the monochromatic. It's one color in different shades. It creates depth. It's amazing. You have the pink in different shades, and that's why it's called monochromatic. Here, on the second painting, it's called analogous. It creates harmony. So basically, what you see here is you have red, orange, and yellow. And because they exist next to each other in the color wheel, we call it analogous. On the third one, can you feel the contrast? It's because the colors, they exist opposite in the color wheel. You have the red and the green. You have the blue and the orange. You have the yellow and the purple. This is all belong opposite to each other, and it's called complementary, and it gives you contrast. And you have the triadic, which is the most playful and vibrant and colorful. But basically, there's equally based on the color wheel. In here, you have the blue, the pink, and the yellow. So knowing your schemes, it's helping a lot, because many times our clients, they're coming to us with a very specific color scheme, and we have to make decisions to embrace what they create, not destroy it. So you cannot just add any color you want without caring on the design and the scheme that the client decided to go for. So for you to celebrate it is to master the color theory. Now that we talk about these three elements that you need on exterior, let's analyze the work of Mir, the work of Luxigon, two of the top studios in the world. I had the pleasure to present with them on events. I had the pleasure to meet the owners and have a chat and discuss about image making, which is both great people to talk. So this masterpiece that we have here has all the elements that we just talked about. Let's find them out. Can you feel the depth, the aerial perspective? High contrast, low contrast. High saturation, low saturation. Done. Check. If you don't get that right, you're out of the game. Can we feel the scheme? Complementary, but can you feel it? It's the contrast. That's how I know. I can feel the contrast. You have blue and orange. And blue and orange, I know that it's opposite to each other on the color wheel. And I know this complementary was a great choice to create something emotional, cold and warm. And to balance that, you have the analogous. This track with blue, green, and yellow was a smart choice to balance the image. This is the first focus point. This is where the development is on the left side. And then you have the one-point perspective, the leading lines, which is a great, great composition that they created. So that's a very powerful image, because it has all the ingredients that an image needs to be powerful. And if you analyze it, it has the right depth. Yep, it has it. It has lines, one-point perspective, successfully. It has this correct color scheme, perfectly balanced, the complementary with the analogous. So basically, by doing this kind of analyzation on an image, and this is called the anatomy of an image, is what you need on exteriors. If you can master that, and you can analyze any work like this, and do the same at your work, when you're making, you will get the results. Because that's all you need on exteriors. It's all about patterns, time of day, get the right depth, right color scheme, and know what you're doing. And you will be surprised now that Luxigon, in a completely different location, from Norway into France, different artists, different tools, different clients, but the same principles. Again, depth, yes. I mean, high contrast, low contrast. High saturation, low saturation. The brightest part of the image, again, the development. Blue and orange. What is that? Complementary. You think the blue bus is there by mistake? No. They saw the blue in the design, and the orange in the design, and they used the blue to create a complementary scheme. That's why I said to you, you need to find a way to complement the design and find the right balance and the right color to tell your story. And when I see orange, blue, it's just amazing and very well done. And then you have the green and the yellow from the sun, and you have your story. And then you have this lady looking on you, which is a great balance between starting looking at the image from here. It's very bright. You have the scheme. You stop on her. She's looking on you, and the light asking you to continue reading the image. And then you have the leading lines with 1 point perspective. It's just so amazing how they do it. You see the depth? It's correct. The lines, same as before. It's the same principle. Different client, different image, different studio. And then you have the color scheme. So you have to find a way to analyze your work in that perspective and also find a way to master these techniques. Get the right depth, the right composition guide, the right color scheme, right direction, and you have a great image. So people composition is important. I think the way they create this lady looking on us, it was phenomenal. One of the best things I've seen. And even if it's an old image, it still stands like a masterpiece 10 years ago. And this is the masters you need to follow when it comes to exterior workflow. Fernando Guerra. I just love this guy. Even on the plane, 11 hours flight, I was on my iPad looking at his work because I do love what he does. He's just a master of the masters. For some reason, I believe that this guy has so much to offer to anybody, especially us, that we create stories and we care about time of day. He knows. He aligned the sun to the design. Of course he went there and he studied the time of day until he finds something interesting, and the way he does it is unique. It's so smart. And he's using people composition in a unique way, especially lately. He's using one people composition, and that's inspiring to me because it tells me that the people, it's important for architecture, but you don't need many. And that's very inspiring. And the way he chose always to have a light and shadow, light and shadow. And this is like award-winning images. You see how he's using the sun as a key light and then balancing that with these people in the foreground. Using the sun as a moonlight and key light and balancing that with artificial light. He's amazing. So what you have to do, it's very simple. Go to Instagram. It was already there, Fernando Guerra. I didn't have to type it. I mean, this guy, look at this. This is like a masterpiece. Can you see the triangle? Look at the people, tonal contrast. Everything we learned today, it's applied in his work. Everywhere. One people composition. This is something new to me. When I'm having clients from now on, I'm trying to create one people composition because you need only one to tell your story. Total contrast again. Everywhere you look, there is one figure. This is a great reference for everyone. The way he does it is unique. Always one person. One. But he does it very well. Look at this. One figure. His composition, they're unique. You can just analyze his work on a 4-hour masterclass. He's really good. So I highly recommend you to go and check his work. And the beautiful time of day and the way he creates stuff, it's unique. He's a photographer that excellent use of color, tonal contrast again. There's gobo patterns. He knows triangles, gobo, everything. And there is one, look at this gobo. And there's one, look at that. I mean, that's art. He's very, very smart. And the way he does it, look at this. Tonal contrast. If you remove this person, I won't appreciate that image as much as I appreciate it with the person. You can see, yeah, you can see the scale, you can see everything. Super smart. So Fernando Guerra, Ivan Ban. Oh, look at the depth, volumetrics, insane. Gobo, natural gobo. Cold and warm. Ivan Ban is a great master. Cristobal Palma. Again, patterns of light and dark. Gobo, scale, people composition, light and dark. They all have the same way, but I think at the same time, unique perspective. Like Fernando Guerra, for me, has a unique perspective of the world. Mark Hayden, Look at this, light, dark, light, dark. You don't need to have a flat lighting. To avoid flat lighting, patterns of light and dark. Look at this beautiful story here. High contrast, less contrast. High saturation, less saturation. Can you see a triangle? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Everything we learned is here. Hafton and Crow, oh my God, the storytellers, amazing people. Two people that changed completely photography in London and New York. They were actually working from London, but they have clients here in New York as well. You can see the difference between a building with interaction and warm and people and without. And we have only 5 minutes left, so what I'm going to do a breakdown of a commercial work for David Chipperfield, answer any questions you might have, and we're going to take this out and continue the Q&A there, because we have to, other guys need to set up for the next meetup, but you know, I will be here, answer any questions you might have, okay? So let's do one breakdown, and then we continue outside. So, Hoxton, Shoreditch, David Chipperfield was a client. And this is the composition, this is the first phase. Basically, we didn't have more information, but it was enough for us to create the composition. And this is the final view that the client agreed and loved. And this is the phase one. So what is next phase? Mood board. Don't forget your references. Label your references. This is very important. And I mentioned to Chris, 5 to 7 images, right? How much is that? 5. So this is my range, between 5 and 7 images on a mood board. Label the images so the client knows what he's seeing. Light reference. This is the quality of light we're looking for. And if you ask me what is a mood board, the mood board sets the visual expression of a vision, and the vision is your desire to communicate something, just so you know what is a mood board. This is the light reference. Reflection on the city skyline. I mean, there's glass here, and we get inspired for this image. Let's use a reflection of the city in the glass. Wow, why not? Shoreditch Park activities. We went to the park, we had lunch, and we just get inspired of how people are using the park. Oh my God, picnic, people playing was a mess, and I love it. Let's bring it into the image. Breakfast set and plants on the balcony. Great, yes, let's do it. You know, let's create something like this. So basically the client, he agreed on every single image, and then we took this and we create a mood draft. Very sketchy, it's all about the mood. As you can see, we're still not in an advanced draft, so basically it's all about having the mood and discussing with the client, what about having this light here? That's why it's a sketch. What about having some small frames here? And these ideas, if he agreed, will go into the next phase. But the reflection of the glass is here. The breakfast set is here. The plants, they're here. So basically everything from the mood board came to the mood draft. This is the advanced draft. You see the light? He said yes, we have it. The paintings, he agreed, we have them on the frames, sorry, it's there. The mood draft, the park, the activities, the people playing, having picnic, and so on, everything is here. The aerial perspective doesn't work yet. You see, the high contrast, it doesn't work. It needs to be less, fade, because the direction, it needs to be on the design, not in the park. So check this out. You see, less contrast, less saturation. It's helping the viewer to look on the left. The client says one breakfast set is enough, that's fine, we have one breakfast set. But the paintings, the frames are here, the light and the reflection. So everything we agreed from the meeting, it's here. The light reflection from the glass, the activities from the park, the depth for the area perspective, everything. This is how we're doing on exterior workflow. As you can see, the philosophy is the same. We just took it outside. And the client was super happy. And this is one of the many images we create for them. And yeah, and so I won't be able to go. I have this image as well for the exterior. And then I start the Q&A. So basically here, as you can see, again, we used light mix in V-Ray to create the exterior file. And I'm just going to open it and show you exterior night scene. Yeah, a great collaboration between myself and the Chaos team. I'm always thankful of offering me scenes that I can use in my classes. So basically here, if I just turn them all off, check this out, the sky. But still it's not enough, right? This is just the sky. The street lamps, they're not affecting the space because I want to create highlights and decide exactly what intensity and what color I'm going to use.